Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Hayward City Council. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask Councilmember Salinas to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and start this. Councilmember Andrews. Councilmember Andrews, are you? Okay.
He was on just a couple seconds ago. I saw it. Maybe it dropped.
Okay. We'll come back. Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Present.
Councilmember Salinas.
Present.
Councilmember Wahab.
Here.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Hola.
Okay, let me go back to Councilmember Andrews. Okay, it appears that she's not present at the moment. Mary Halliday.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll watch for, because I'm pretty sure she is going to be joining us, Councilmember Andrews. That brings us to our closed session announcement, and I think our city attorney, Mr. Lawson, will give us that.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. The Council convened in closed session at 6 p.m. this evening, pursuant to a posted notice and the Brown Act. And with all members present and no public speakers, the Council discussed the following. A, property transactions. The Council discussed its master lease with the Hayward Area Recreation District, provided direction to staff, but otherwise took no reportable action. B, labor. The Council met with its labor negotiating team regarding the Hayward Police Officers Association, provided direction to staff, but otherwise took no reportable action. The closed session was adjourned at 6:54 p.m. Mayor?
Thank you. And I do see that Councilmember Andrews is with us now. And mark her present. And so with that, we will move on to public comments. This is your opportunity to comment on any items that are not otherwise on our agenda. Is there anyone wanting to make a public comment? Don't see any hands raised among the attendees, or is there anyone in the chambers who would like to make a public comment? Please come forward, state your name, and let us know what you have to say. I see someone else coming forward. So, yes.
Good evening.
Oh, yeah, turn the mic on. Yeah, there it is. That's on now.
It starts
Yes,
the timer,
thank you.
though.
It's what?
It doesn't start the timer? No, I'm kidding.
No, not yet. No.
Hi, I'm Frank Farrell. I'm the new president and CEO of the Hayward Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the warm reception since June 20th here. Had a couple of great events that I experienced. We started some economic development activities in the community. One such activity is our President's Ball coming up on October 21st. I gave the city clerk a handout on it where I'm not here to ask for money. That's not my style, but I do encourage you to participate in the event by getting a table and supporting your veterans, because we're trying to raise funds for the veterans. Nothing's going to the chamber, just to our veterans.
All right, thank you
very much.
And welcome, although we've seen you around. You've been very busy since you started. I know you've been at a lot of city events, so we appreciate the partnership, and yes, we will look forward to that invitation. What was the date again?
October 21st, Friday evening from 17 to 2100.
Okay, that's military time, and yes, we got it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else like to make a public comment? Go ahead and come forward.
Mayor, there's also a speaker online that has their hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see that. Okay, but we'll take the chamber first. And
Oh, somebody left their pen. Is it yours?
Frank? Okay. Maybe it's up there in case you want to make some notes. Go ahead, and you can go ahead and start
It's
speaking.
just that I want to put my little.
Go ahead.
I have some notes here, and I just want to make sure that they don't fall. And then the pen was kind of like blocking.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So can I just put it right here? Okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Hi. So good evening. Oh wait, do I have 3 minutes? Okay, I see the green thing. Thank you. Okay, so let me see here. Just want to make sure I get my mic positioned correctly. Is that good? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening, City Council, Miss Lenz, Mr. Lawson, Miss Ott. It's great to see you all again. Although, is Kelly here? I'm sorry, is Miss...
She
is the city
She
manager
in
here?
She is with us on Zoom.
I'm online this evening.
So
Good to see you.
good to see you. Okay, and then of course it's great to see Councilmember Zermenio, Councilmember Laminin, Councilmember Salinas. I don't see anybody else. Okay, well, whoever else is online, great to see you. Well, I mean, great. Hi, that's what I mean. And of course, Mayor Holliday, great to see you again. So my name is David Watley, and so I actually am here. I wear multiple hats, and so, previously I used to work for the state of California State Senate under Senator Kevin Murray, who was the chairman of Appropriations. But he got termed out of office, and I was not able to join him. He lost his congressional campaign, and it's a sad story. But now he's the CEO of the Weingart Center in Los Angeles. If you guys ever want to go down to LA, I know they have a great organization down there. He'd be happy to just say, hey, I was referred to by David Watley, your former staffer. And they can really give you sort of a different view of how homelessness is addressed in the state of California. Homelessness looks differently in different regions. So in Los Angeles County, it looks a lot different than Alameda County, than Fresno County, for example, or Orange County, or San Diego County, for example. On that, I digress. So actually, what I wanted to say first off is that I left a voicemail for Francisco. I got your email. Thank you, sir. I certainly do appreciate that. And it was with regard to BART. I want the liaison to the Bay Area Rapid Transit, the city's liaison to BART. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on was the Rich technical AI device that's in the lobby. I would like to follow up with the city attorney on that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that possible?
Yes, I think it is possible, and maybe if you leave your information with the city clerk here, she can arrange to have somebody from the city attorney's office get in touch with you. Is that okay?
And then with regard to the city of Hayward's liaison to the Bay Area Rapid Transit Board of Directors, who would that be?
I don't think we have a liaison to the, we have AC Transit.
No, and also the BART
Oh, right, okay, we have a joint powers agreement and committee with the BART. We don't have a liaison per se, but I'm sorry, your time is up on that, but we can follow up. You can follow up with someone in the city.
Mayor.
No, Mr. Watley, your time is up, so.
May I ask a question?
No, please sit down. Your time for public speaking is up, and you can follow up with the city clerk about your other questions, or with my office.
Okay, I understand.
All right,
and I
thank you.
appreciate that, but I just want to say one thing so that the public hears. A lot of times people say that secret deals happen behind the scenes, and people have made that when I worked on Councilmember Wahhab's campaign, when I supported Councilmember
Mr.
Zermenio,
Watley.
and I don't want anybody to say that any further going forward. That's all.
Yes,
Thank you.
we don't do anything that's not legal. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we're going to move on. Are there any other? There is one. There is somebody on Zoom. Mimi Dean.
Hi there. Hi everybody. I just came from the Eden Mac meeting, and I was just wondering, I've looked at your agenda tonight. The Airport Commission wasn't able to present to the Eden Mac tonight because they had to come to this meeting. And I'm wondering if you could please let me know what item it is that they're presenting on, because I would like to listen to that item. Perhaps it's the item that they were going to present to us tonight. Can you give me that information, or?
I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
I can respond to that.
Oh, okay. Our
Thank
city
you.
manager will respond.
Sorry. So originally the council does not meet on the second Tuesday of the month. And so myself, our public works director, and our airport manager were scheduled to attend the Eden Area MAC meeting starting at 6 p.m. We unfortunately changed the council schedule around so that we did end up scheduling a meeting this evening. And so it was mostly my attendance, and I think that was why we gave the option that the staff could come early at 6 or reschedule, and I think the choice was made to reschedule it to the next month's meeting to discuss the airport land use plan and for the SkyWest golf course. So I apologize for the last minute switch, but I don't believe there's a formal presentation from the airport staff. It was just a scheduling conflict because of the council meeting. There's other consent calendar items that our public works director needs to be here for in case there's questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were just disappointed tonight because we thought we were going to hear, and there was quite a large public comment on the after we took it off the agenda. So, and it's going to be difficult to reschedule for next month, right? Because it's election night. But
we're happy to work with you guys to find an
Yeah.
alternate time and date if needed. So
yeah, well, I don't do the scheduling, but I was just trying to get to the bottom of this, and now I understand. So thank you so much. Have a great meeting, you guys. I'll be hanging out in the background. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry about that need to reschedule.
council and our city organization is aware, but members of our community might not be, that we had a city employee, Fareed Ramazanzadeh, from our public works water pollution control facility. He was our lab supervisor, unexpectedly passed away during a tragic accident on vacation off the Galapagos Islands. Fareed worked for the city for over 20 years, started with us in April of 2003. You could not have met a more delightful human being, always had a smile, just a wonderful person, recognized throughout the state for his work in advancing wastewater treatment, and just tremendously tragic, his early demise. And there's some news coverage of the accident that happened that is circulating around if people are interested in reading about that. They are having a private service for him, but there is a charity organization that he was involved with to provide individuals with clean water. And so the website is www.charitywater.org/Fareed, and that's Farid. And his family is asking for donations to that organization in his memory. And so it's just a tragic loss for the city organization of someone who just was such a joy to work with and just always had a smile on his face. So I just wanted to share that again with the council and with community members who may not have heard that news. And then second, I wanted to, I have Deputy Police Chief Brian Matthews here with me this evening. I know there have been a spate of homicides over the last 10 days. We've had 4 homicides and 3 separate incidents that have occurred in Hayward over the last 10 days. And I did want to have the Deputy Chief just talk a little bit about those incidents, reassure the community that those are not related, and that there's just details of which the community should feel reassured that there's not random acts of violence that are occurring against community members. All of the homicides were located in different geographic areas of the city. And HPD does have persons in custody for 3 of the 4 homicides. And right to date, for this calendar year, we've had 10 homicides in the city so far, and we have offenders in custody for 50% of these homicides. And I'll ask Deputy Chief Matthews to share more information about the most recent incidents.
Thank you very much, City Manager McAdoo. Can you hear me okay?
All yes.
Right. So as the city manager mentioned, we had 4 homicides in a stretch of 10 days, which is highly unusual for us. But anytime we have a cluster of violent crime, particularly homicides, it's certainly cause for concern and the reason for us addressing you tonight. One of the things that we do as a matter of routine, anytime we have violent crime, including homicides, is we try to conduct an analysis in an effort to identify commonalities or trends or areas of overlap. The purpose in doing so is to identify investigative and violence prevention strategies that may be effective. For the 4 homicides in a 10-day stretch, preliminary analysis shows no nexus or areas of overlap. So these are all 3 entirely separate incidents that occurred within a short period of time. And as the city manager mentioned, in very different geographic areas of the city. Based on our investigations, it suggests that the victims and the offenders knew each other to some degree. So these were not random acts of violence. There was some form of a relationship with each other, or the people who, or they knew people who knew each other, basically. So there is no information to suggest the community is in a heightened state of risk, and we certainly are committed to continuing to do all we can to impact violent crime in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And those are the comments that I have this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I know we'll, I have confidence our police department will continue working on the crimes. And we will, as is our usual custom, to adjourn in memory of people in our community who have passed away on the last meeting of the month. I think on October 25th, then we will adjourn in Mr. Ramazanzada's memory. That was indeed sad. Okay, with that, if there are no other comments from the city manager, we will move on to our action items this evening. First, we will take up our consent calendar, which this evening consists of items 1 through 10. Is there anyone who would like to?
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, Madam City Clerk.
My apologies. I have a request to pull items 6 through 10.
6 through 10.
Correct.
Okay. So, is there anyone who would like to pull items 1 through 5? Seeing no one. Councilmember Zermeño, your motion will be on items 1 through 5.
And I also want to note that Ms. Elaine Alvita is in the audience, so we say hello. She's the one we're going to be voting on. So,
Yes, welcome
and thank her personally for supporting and helping our city.
All right, that would be for the replacement on the Community Services Commission. Item number 4, Ms. Elaine Alvita. Welcome to our meeting this evening. Okay, is there a second? 1 through 5 have been moved by Councilmember Zermeño, seconded by Councilmember Lamnin. On the motion, Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Halliday, and I'm assuming no speakers. I don't see any speakers on Zoom, so we'll go ahead and start. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermeño.
See.
Thank you, Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. And so we will now move to item number 6, which is adoption of a resolution approving addendums 1, number 2, and number 3, and accepting the bid protest, awarding a contract to Blocka Construction Company for the Water Pollution Control Facility Switchgear Rehabilitation Project in an amount not to exceed $13,169,800, and appropriating additional funds in the amount of $2,669,635. $2,669,635. So, Madam City Clerk, there's a speaker. Someone wants to speak on this item. Mr. Watley. Mr. Watley, do you want to come forward?
Hi again. So, I just want to say, Mayor, I apologize for our previous interaction. The reason why I want to make sure, unfortunately,
Mr. Watley, it's okay, and I apologize too. It's my charge to run the meetings in a timely manner and to keep to the time. That's fair to everyone. However, I don't want you to lose your time on this one, so please speak to the item that you've pulled.
So I had a question on this item. It says adopt a resolution approving addendums number 1, number 2, and number 3, accepting the bid protest and awarding a contract to Blocka Construction, Inc. for the water pollution control facility switchgear rehabilitation project number 07656 in an amount not to exceed $13,169,800, and appropriating additional funds in the amount of $2,669,635. So we're looking basically out about a total of a little over $15 million. Is this funds coming out of the general fund, or what is this coming out of?
No, it's not coming out of the general fund. Madam Assistant City Manager, Ms. Ott will answer your question.
Yeah, so, and we have our Public Works Director, but these are through enterprise funds, so.
Just a minute. I want you to finish your comments because you have a minute left, and then she'll answer any other questions you have.
Okay, okay, I'll go through my questions then. So the first question is, what fund is this coming out of? The second question is it possible to get a little bit more explanation on the bid protest and what the protest was about? Not just for my sake, but for the entire city, because $15 million is, it's quite a lot of money, especially since the city has had financial issues in the past. And then my third question with regard to this is, who is the project lead for project number 07656?
Okay, thank you. And I'll just start by saying all of that information is in the staff report on the agenda packet.
I didn't see that.
Okay,
and I'm pretty sure the majority of the city of Hayward did not see it, the residents.
It is publicly available for anyone who wants to, and I would suggest that you spend some time with the city clerk to see how you can access
I understand that, and I'm not necessarily asking for a suggestion. I'm asking a specific question. What fund is the money coming out of, the $15 million? That's a specific question. Number 2,
yes.
I'm asking, let me finish, because I think you're not clear on what my questions were. Number 2, my question is, well, I should say my third question was, who is the project manager for bid number 07656? And then the second question that I asked was, is there any way that the city, whether it's, I don't know if the city attorney wants to sort of speak to it, or if another representative of the city manager's office would like to speak to a little bit more information than was provided in the staff report with regard to the bid protest.
Okay, Ms. Ott.
And I'm going to sit down so that you can take your time answering those questions. Thank you.
Since there were a number of questions, I am going to ask Alex Miri, our Public Works and Utilities Director, to provide those answers, but there was a significant, there's a significant information in the staff report, more than even we normally do, specifically on the bid protest, so, yeah.
Yes, there was quite a bit of information there.
Thank you very much, Assistant
Mr.
City
Mary?
Manager.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me start with the project manager. Project manager is Susan England, who is a senior utilities engineer and has been in charge of this project, and she is here tonight to answer any other questions. The funds for this project comes from the wastewater capital improvement funds. For that purpose, there is nothing that is contributed by the general fund. The reason for the bid protest was that the bids that we received per our municipal code will have to be responsible and responsive to the project's plans and specifications and requirements of the city and be the lowest bid. So we had a lowest bid from one contractor that we were in the process of reviewing when we received a bid protest from the second low bidder that said the first low bidder was not responsive to the project's specifications and requirements. So when we finished our review, when we completed our review, we realized that not only the low bidder was not responsive to the requirements of the project, but even the second low bidder that had filed the protest itself was not responsive to the requirements of the project. And therefore, per our requirements of the municipal code, we moved up to the third lowest bidder, which is Blocka Company, and the project is requested to be awarded to Blocka. Blocka has been responsive to the requirements of the project, is a responsible contractor, and has provided the third lowest bid, which is still below the engineer's estimate for the project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? I see Alex Ferguson on Zoom.
Good evening, Council. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate your time tonight. This is Alex Ferguson. As she said, I am the project manager at Anvil Power, the electrical subsidiary of Anvil Builders, who submitted on this bid. Coming to you both as an aggrieved party and also as a colleague of sorts. I'm a sitting planning commissioner in my hometown of Pacifica, where we review and approve capital improvements plans. So I guess I understand this from both sides. I understand the difficult position and job that staff has, as well as your need to rely on staff findings. However, in this particular case, I must disagree with staff's finding that Anvil's bid was unresponsive. This is well within our wheelhouse of projects. I've just come back from Morro Bay, where we started up a $30 million wastewater project last week. We have an ongoing wastewater switchgear project with the city of San Francisco, which is quite a bit larger than the project we're talking about here. So it would not even be the biggest wastewater switchgear electrical project that Anvil is currently working on. We were asked specifically by the electrical designer on this project to bid it because he has worked with and has knowledge of the responsible parties in our company. I feel that is well within our wheelhouse to do a project like this. And in fact, this is the specific type of work that we do as a company. We are currently working on several other wastewater projects, as I said, of similar size and scope. I guess at this point would like to go on the record of saying I understand it's matching funds and there's probably federal funding behind this and it's not the city's general fund, but by adopting this resolution and agreeing with staff's findings that Anvil was unresponsive, the city of Hayward will effectively be wasting round numbers about $1.5 million of money that could be better used for your constituents. I believe that this bid finding was incorrect, and if you would like to do a bit more homework or continue this item, I think that we could find a way to award this to the low bidder. We put a lot of work into this bid and would put a lot of work into this project. I'll yield the rest of my time. I appreciate your time and consideration on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? If not, I will turn back to council for comments or a motion or questions. Okay, the staff recommendation has been moved by Council Member Zermeño. Is there a second? Seconded by Council Member Lamnin. Any comments? Discussion? Okay. Not seeing any. I will ask Madam City Clerk to please call the roll for the vote.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. Okay, item number 7, adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $55,000 in grant funding from the University of California, Davis Coret Shelter Medicine Program's California for All Animals grant to the Hayward Police Department's Animal Services Bureau. We had a request to speak again, Madam.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Watley.
Sorry, I've been out of the country for what feels like a million years, but so I haven't been here for a while, so I want to get as much as I can in. So do bear with me, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to me tonight. I really, it means a lot, and that, you're willing to hear members of the public who are passionate and concerned about a host of various policy
Watley,
issues.
Could you address your comments to the item number 7, please?
So this one, again, so this says, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $55,000 in grant funding from the University of California, Davis Coret Shelter Medicine Programs, California for All Animals grant to the Hayward Police Department's Animal Services Bureau. So first of all, I actually wanted to say that before council started, I was speaking in the council chambers where we all sit, and there's actually a representative here from the, right? You're from the Bureau?
I'm a volunteer.
We have a volunteer here from the, oh, well, thank you. God bless you for being here. I appreciate that. So we have 2 volunteers here from the the Hayward Police Department's Animal Service Bureau. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge them for their volunteer service to the community. And I think that, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. What was it? Deborah Souza and Mabel Yelta. So I just want to publicly commend, because, volunteer service, everybody that I'm speaking to right now gets a paycheck for being here, right? This is one of the councils that pays their council members for their service. Not all city governments do that. So everybody that I'm speaking to is getting a paycheck to be here. However, we have our 2 volunteers from the Animal Service Bureau who are not being paid to be here. So I just want to publicly commend them for their commitment to public service. And my question is, do we know, it's $55,000 in grant funding from the University of California. Do we know what fund out of the university that 55 grand is coming out of? Or are they just giving it to you without preconditions?
Thank you. That's, yeah.
Is that a question for city manager or city attorney?
I'll have Ms. Ott, I think, is ready to answer it.
Yeah, I think what's important is that the grant funding from the university is going to our general fund to augment our services. So we'll be able to leverage our existing general fund monies and provide additional services.
Can you address at all his question about what where in the university in.
I'm not clear. We do have Jenny Comstock, our Animal Services Administrator online, so she has it. But usually, we don't get into the funding accounts of other organizations that provide us the money. It's more important to us in our staff reports to disclose where that funding is going.
I understand that, ma'am. But I like I mentioned, I used to work for the state Senate, and we have funding shortages at all universities for students. I want to know what fund it's coming out of.
If you would like an answer, we're going to ask a staff member to please answer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again. I certainly appreciate it.
We're asking Jenny Comstock if you happen to have that information. She's online. If not, then something we can try to find out.
We can
later.
get back to him. Is she on?
Hi. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay. So yes, this was funding that was provided by Governor Newsom to the UC Davis Shelter Medicine Program for the purpose of funding shelters and organizations to look at reducing, the overpopulation of animals. So it was funding that came from Governor Newsom to the UC Davis Shelter Medicine Program for this purpose.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move the item. Marquez?
Yes. Moved by Councilmember Marquez, seconded by... I will second the motion. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews?
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez?
Aye, and thank you to our volunteers.
Thank you. Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab? Councilmember Wahab online? Okay.
She may be having difficulties.
All right.
Know that
Councilmember
I'm seeing
Cermeño?
her. Okay, we'll have to figure out what happened to her.
All right. Councilmember Cermeño?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab, one more time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mark absent. She's not online. Mayor Halliday.
Apologies. Yes.
Oh, here is Councilmember Wahab.
Got it. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. Moving on to item number 8, adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $125,000 in grant funding from the Stupski Foundation for the Hayward Food, Agriculture, and Economy Plan. I believe we had a speaker. Is it?
It's me.
Okay, please come on up.
I'm going to be speaking on the rest of the agenda, just so you have an advance.
Yep, turn it on. That's it.
Okay.
It's on.
Yay. Okay, so my first question is, what is the stupid...
Stupski, I think it is.
Sorry. Not the Stupiski. Stupiski, it sounds Polish, which I love that region of Europe. So what is the Stupiski Foundation? And what I mean is, what city and state is it located in, and who's the executive representative for that organization? And secondly, my question is the Hayward Food, Agriculture, and Economy Plan. I didn't even know we had a plan that was called that. I mean, is there any way that we can provide, I guess my question would be for the Hayward Food, Agriculture, and Economy Plan, is there a liaison to the United States Department of Agriculture that you're partnering with on this? So my first question is pertaining to the Stupiski Foundation in terms of where the city and state it's located, and also who the executive officer that, I guess maybe the CEO or whatever, the chairman, for example, just to give an example, if it's a nonprofit, the senator that I used to work for in the California State Senate. His name is Senator Kevin Murray, and he is the CEO of the Weingart Center in Los Angeles. So that's his title that they gave him on that in that nonprofit. And then the second question is there a liaison that the city has to the United States Department of Agriculture that it is working with regard to its Hayward, with regard to the city's Hayward food, agriculture, and economy plan? Thank you.
Ms. Ott.
Do you want us to answer?
Sorry, Councilmember Zermania, did you have a question?
Just to note, one of the things that we normally have done is when there are some questions that is not easily accessible for us to answer at that moment, we can always, at a later date, tomorrow,
Yes.
day after tomorrow, return to the speaker, public comment speaker, and say, this is what we found out.
Yeah, and we're happy to do that at the direction of the mayor. If that's what you'd like us to do, we can take note of these questions and then respond to
Yes,
Mr.
why don't
Watley
we do
directly.
that then?
Okay.
Yes, you're right, you're correct. We don't generally. We try to answer questions or at least connect with the staff, and I would say that we will have staff connect with you tomorrow about the answers to these questions. Yes, thank you,
We're taking
Councilmember
note, and
Zermania.
we will do that. Thank you.
Okay, yes. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments on this item? If not, I will entertain, moved by Councilmember Salinas. Seconded by Councilmember Lamnon. On the motion, Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnon.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. Next, item number 9, adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept and appropriate $29,000 in grant funding from the Alameda County Office of Emergency Services for the installation of a transfer switch for the Hayward Communication Center. We have a speaker, Mr. Watley. Yes, Mr. Watley, would you like to come forward?
So I'm not sure based upon the direction you provided. Okay, thanks. So based upon the comments that you made with regard to the previous, for number 8, should all of my questions for 9 and 10 be directed then to city staff? The reason why I want to ask it publicly is, like I was mentioning previously, I have heard some pretty disturbing comments made about me in this community with regard to my service on Councilmember Wahab's campaign when she ran for city council in 2018 that aren't true, and I just don't appreciate false claims being I'm sure you can understand that, Mark. You ran for mayor, and a lot of false things were said about
Mr.
you.
Watley.
So I'm just saying I would appreciate, that's the reason why I'm asking the questions publicly instead of
Mr.
through
Watley,
email or fax or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
We will answer those questions to you in a separate, we'll have
But then,
the staff
then
get
the rest
back
of the
to you.
community doesn't know, and then people start spreading all these lies.
Well, Mr. Watley, it is our custom, actually,
To spread lies?
not be having, exchanges. I would suggest that you read the
Ma'am,
reports that
with all
go
due
with these.
respect, I
Okay.
respect your role as mayor, but I ask that you provide me respect as having worked having worked
what
for
we
the
are-
state legislature. I
Yes,
ask for
thank
that
you.
respect.
And what we are directing is that we will get back to you. You leave your number, and the staff is making note of these questions, and they will get back to you and answer.
Okay, but I want everyone in the community to have my phone number because I want everybody to follow up. I just don't want Jennifer or Kelly or whoever I want everybody to be, this is a community discussion. It's not, that's what happens in these meetings is that Francisco sends me an email, Sarah sends me an email, Aisha, I haven't talked to her in a million years. And then everybody's like, oh, we have all these private deals going on and private conversations, and people are saying things that aren't true. So I don't appreciate that. And I really think that as the city attorney, you should properly address that libel and slander is illegal, and the city can be sued for that.
Mr. Watley, your comments are absolutely off subject here, and it is not appropriate. It is not an appropriate time for you to be. Now, if you have a comment about
what have
item
I said
number
is
9
that's
or a question,
inappropriate?
please state it, because you have 38 seconds left.
What have I said that's inappropriate?
You have not spoken to the item on the agenda here. So if you have comments or questions, please state them. Item number 9.
The Hayward Communication Center. I have never heard of this. I went to Southgate Elementary, Ochoa Middle School, Mount Eden High, and then I went to UCLA. I do not know what the Hayward Communication Center is. Can you tell me what that is? I have no idea.
We will get back
Do you know, Mark?
with the answer tomorrow.
You're running for mayor. I don't know what it is, and you're voting on it. You're giving them $29,000, and there's people sleeping on the streets.
Your time is up. Please sit down, and we will get an answer
Okay, ma'am,
to you tomorrow on
please
that.
respect the fact that I have served for 12
Mr. Watley,
United
you
States
are
politicians.
out of order at this point, and if you
Okay,
don't sit down
I appreciate
right now,
I appreciate you, but I just don't appreciate the false claims and libel and slander that has
Mr.
been said
Watley,
about me in this
please sit
community.
down.
That's all. Thank you. And that's not what you're saying is not appropriate as a mayor.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion. Moved by Councilmember Salinas, seconded by, I will second the motion. And Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. Finally, number 10 on our consent calendar is adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a lease agreement with Forster.org for the Hazel Community Garden through December 31st, 2023, with an option for a 2-year extension. Please come forward.
So when it says Forster,
Yeah. Thank you.
So when it says Forster, are we talking about? And I think I might look over here towards Mr. Lawson. Are we talking about Morrison Forster?
No.
Oh, because I have friends that work for that firm. I just was curious because I have never heard of Forrester. What is that? What is that?
Yeah, it's in a staff report. It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? I think we have Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the item was pulled, I just wanted to comment on Forrester. I'm very excited that the city is working with this fine organization and hope that we can do more in the future. So just wanted to say thanks for making those connections to make that happen.
All right, thank you. Would you like to move the item?
Sure. I'd like to move the item.
All right, moved by Councilmember Andrews, seconded by Councilmember Salinas. Seeing no other requests to speak, Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin.
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas. Yes. Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Aye.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes, and the motion carries with 7 aye votes. That brings us to our work session item number 11, Downtown Hayward Improvement Association. We're going to receive a report on activities from the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association District Manager. And so we are going to start our report with Ms. Ott. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, council members. We have Dominic Delandry here, and he is remote, and he's going to share his screen and go through his presentation. And then we have city staff here from a number of different divisions and departments if you do have questions about downtown or have any follow-up questions for us as well.
Hey, how's it going? Can you all hear me?
Not very well.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, we're not hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Okay. Thank you all for making the time tonight. I'll keep this brief because I'm sure you all are eager to get home and get on with your evening. But I want to just briefly go through a summary report of the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association's operations in downtown Hayward this past year and a half. This report's a little delayed because this covers the time frame starting from the beginning of 2021 till about now. So I just wanted to preface that before we get into it. Some of the numbers might seem a little bit dated, but I'm happy to clear up any questions at the conclusion of the presentation. And feel free also, if you have any questions as I go, feel free just to raise your hand or ask them, and I'd be happy to respond. Okay, I'll move down. And so the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association is a special, what we call a community benefit district, which is a special property-based improvement district that essentially collects a special assessment from all the property owners within downtown Hayward and then returns that assessment to an owners association, the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association, which is a nonprofit 501c3, returns those assessments to the DHIA to then administer services in the downtown Hayward area. The services that are administered are above and beyond what the city of Hayward currently provides. And this district has been formed in downtown, operating for the past about 4 to 5 years. And just some brief history. The district had an interim board in 2018. It was formed for 10 years, and its conclusion comes at the end of 2028. It was set up as an interim board in 2018, and then a formal board was inducted in January 2019. And then subsequently after that, over the next few months, the articles of incorporation were filed with the state. A bank account was set up. Insurance was acquired because we have a contract with the city that requires us to have certain insurance thresholds. And then also a logo was created locally. And then July 2019, about 6 months before COVID hit, we got our full-time maintenance crew up and running to provide day-to-day quality of life services in downtown. So we've been operating a full-time maintenance operation in downtown since about July 2019, and even through COVID the last 3 years. Some overview of our board, and this presentation was assembled in early to mid-September. So there's a slight change on this slide. We currently have 12 board members, not 9 board members. We reseated a new board at our last meeting just last week on October 5th. So we have a board of directors that steers the district, that gives instruction to staff and follows the management plan directives that were spelled out when the district was originally formed. We have 12 operating members. We have an annual budget of around $595,000. You can see on the pie charts that are included to your right, you can see our breakdown of our income and our carry forward. We have a significant carry forward since the onset of the district. A lot of that is due to COVID because we weren't able to be as robust and as active in downtown due to the pandemic and the subsequent shutdowns. So we have banked that money and we've used it on certain key programs in downtown, but we still have a healthy carry forward that we're operating off of. And we expect to use that in the coming years on special projects or infrastructure projects in downtown, light infrastructure, not exactly capital improvement projects. Going back to the presentation, 239 parcels, 150 property owners. As I mentioned, the services provided to downtown property owners are above and beyond what the city of Hayward currently provides. And the rule of thumb for our operations is curb to property front. So from the curb and the gutter to essentially where the business, you enter into the business or you enter into the building. That's what we take care of. We also take care of visible graffiti as much as possible. Obviously not trying to harm the buildings, but as much as possible, we want to make sure that we stay on top of graffiti in downtown and abate it when we see it, because as we all know, graffiti, if left unaddressed, tends to coalesce and snowball into bigger issues. So we definitely want to stay on top of that, and we work very closely with Todd and the Maintenance Services Department to make sure that downtown doesn't become overrun overnight with graffiti taggings. And finally, the majority of our district business, the promotion of the district, the maintenance operations, the review of current development projects coming into the district or area, those are facilitated through 3 advisory committees that we set up at the onset of the district. And those 3 advisory committees are our Sidewalk Operations Committee. This committee generally oversees the Clean and Safe program, and as well as the Enhanced Landscaping program of the district. We have our District Identity and Streetscape Improvement Committee. We call it DISY for short. This committee oversees district marketing and media promotion of downtown Hayward, as well as local placemaking projects and special events. When we say placemaking, we think projects that contribute to to public spaces or public activation of our sidewalks. So that could be movable tables and chairs that the public sit on. That could mean banners. That could mean hanging flower pots. Whatever we think is conducive to making a more enjoyable pedestrian experience downtown, that's what we consider placemaking, and that's tucked under the District Identity and Streetscape Improvement Committee. We call it DISY for short. And then finally, we have our Land Use and Project Review Committee, which reviews capital improvement projects, mobility issues, as well as new development projects in the district, mainly just to get feedback about things that the district would like to see developers consider when they are building their development, like tree style, trash cans on corners, adequate pedestrian lighting, kind of those things to kind of improve or enhance the quality of life on their corners or on their building frontage. So I'm just going to go over a few highlights of our committees this past year and a half, and please feel free to ask me questions if you have them. So as you can see on the right, we have a collection of pictures from our operations this last year. It's a small slice of what we accomplished over the course of the last year and a half in downtown. But some of those highlights from our sidewalk operations is that we provided 7-day-a-week maintenance coverage of downtown throughout the entire year. And so that includes a lot of times on holidays, we'll provide a skeleton crew, obviously at the employee's request. We don't force anybody to work on holidays. We simply offer them overtime holiday pay. And if they want it, they can grab it. But what we want to do is just maintain these spaces, downtown sidewalks, our public spaces for any of the community members that may be frequenting downtown, even on a holiday. So 365 days a year, we try to provide services to downtown. We do it on all regular working days. We try to provide that same level of coverage, or at least a skeleton crew coverage on the holidays. But our main goal with providing that robust coverage is consistency and stability for downtown merchants and downtown property owners. Because when customers come back to downtown, we want them to experience a clean and safe downtown. And that impression or that perception is informed by the distance they travel from the parking space to their business front or to their final destination. We want to have a hand in helping curate that perception, and that requires us to make sure that the sidewalks are clean as much as possible. So in addition to providing daily sidewalk sweeping, we also last year provide 2 separate private security firms in downtown as a pilot to supplement the presence that's already provided by Hayward PD, but also to provide some more ambassador services to downtown, some wayfinding for customers returning to downtown, as well as some quality of life follow-up issues. And this service was initially conducted in June 2021 with our first patrol service. Didn't quite work out, it just wasn't a right fit. So we pivoted to another patrol vendor that comes out of San Francisco with a lot of references. And we engaged with them for about 5 months from November 2021 to about March 2022. And I'll get a little bit more into that, but we didn't exactly see stellar results. So I'll say that for a little bit later. But in addition to security and maintenance, we provided 25 new hanging flower baskets on B Street. They're currently not hung right now because we've taken them down with the intention of replanting them with a fall selection and then putting them back up so that we have some consistency through the winter seasons into the spring. We provided regular steam cleaning of the district. You know, you can only sweep up the sidewalk so many times. You have to sometimes take it a level further, which is really getting down there with some pressure washing or some steam cleaning services. And as you can see from the picture, the small pictures that we provided in this presentation, we try to provide those quality life services, those holistic services all throughout the district where we see hotspots. And then finally, we did have a nascent pilot camera program that we rolled out. It's not much success. And I can get into that a little bit more later on in the presentation, but the crux of that pilot program, or actually the doom of that pilot program, was the lack of high-speed internet in downtown. The intention of that pilot was to put our cameras on private property owner buildings so that we could help assist in the public safety profile in downtown. The issue we ran into when installing these cameras on the buildings that property owners volunteered is that they didn't quite have adequate internet connectivity services to support not only their business operations, but also these cameras. So what we're finding is that these cameras needed dedicated lines, and then we got into the weeds of providing dedicated internet for individual cameras in private buildings. So that's why we kind of went down a rabbit hole with that. And since then, our board has instructed staff, myself, to more take a step back and to reanalyze the kind of the dimensions of that program. So moving on to the highlights of our maintenance operations. As I mentioned before, since July 2019, our maintenance operations in downtown Hayward had been run in-house, in which I interviewed all of our employees. I hired all of them, trained all of them. I got them to work together, assigned them a route, told them what to look for, what to do. And that had been working essentially through COVID. You know, when we lost people, I myself was out there pushing a car if need be. The main objective is making sure the sidewalks were clean for returning customers. So we had a full outfit pretty consistently through 2021 and into 2022. About Q2, at the beginning of Q2, we started to see some drop off as employees were enticed back to their former jobs in San Francisco, some at hotels, some at other jobs that were offering higher wages than we could afford. So, you know, no harm, no foul. We understand people got to get back to their old jobs and back to their old way of doing things. But that left us pretty shorthanded. So I'll get into that in the next slide, but just some quick highlights from our operations in 2021. Approximately 40,000 pounds of trash litter removed from downtown streets. We quantified that by the amount of bags that we purchase and we deposit in the dumpster that the city of Hayward has provided us behind the memorial building. We also collect leaves. In the fall season, we have London palm plains or London palm trees, and those drop all their leaves. I managed the district in San Leandro for about 4.5 years. Same type of trees. We generated, you know, about 1,000 bags of leaves in about a month time there. And Hayward is very similar. Mission Boulevard around Watkins Street. A lot of the same trees that drop these huge leaves that become definitely a issue in the fall, but we have the equipment, we have the know-how to take care of it. So we make sure that we capture those and we pivot in the fall season to make sure that we account for that. As I mentioned earlier, graffiti removed, we stay on top of it as much as possible to make sure that it doesn't spike. That actual annual count is lower than previous years. So what we're hoping is that we're starting to gain the reputation that you can go to other parts of the East Bay and tag, not downtown Hayward, because you know you're not going to get the notoriety that you're looking for. Unfortunately, we have seen an uptick in incidences of debris deposited on our sidewalk that we have either remove or report to Public Works or to maintenance services. So that is an uptick, but that's something we've seen across the board in every city is just illegal dumping. That's just something that I can say. I manage districts in Southern California, Northern California. I consult in districts in San Francisco. Across the board, we have all seen more stuff being dumped on the sidewalks, even more so than we've seen before. It's just an issue that we've had to really contend with. But again, maintenance services has been a huge help in really tag teaming with us and making sure that our downtown sidewalks are staying clean and staying safe. I mentioned the landscaping program in the last slide. We have a total of 32 barrel planters in downtown that were placed as an interim basis during COVID. And then we have 25 flower baskets hung on B Street. Those, as I mentioned, have been taken down for replanting this fall season. But we also intend eventually to replace those barrel pots because those are wooden. They have a shelf life. And we do want to maintain landscaping on the public sidewalks, supplemental landscapings and pots. But we want to make sure that those pots look long-term, professional. And so there's some samples that I'm going to be bringing to our committee in the coming months to consider for a improvement in the aesthetic of downtown. And then finally, the 2 security guard patrol firms that I mentioned earlier in the last slide. The last firm that we contracted with in November 2021, I mentioned that we had a pilot program with them for about 5 months. Within that 5 months of offering 5 to 6 days a week coverage full time, we expended about $86,000. And the reason why we decided to end that program after the pilot period, because it was a 6-month pilot with a 6-month option. The reason why we decided to end that early is because we really weren't seeing the gains that we were wanting to see in downtown, which is the security patrols were intended to not only provide hospitality and ambassador services for downtown merchants and visitors, but also to work with community services to try to get a working file, working relationship with some of our downtown homeless individuals and make sure that the homeless individuals know that the service landscape is there available to them and that they can plug into it and they can talk to certain people. Our security patrol was intended to be that first kind of outreach service, that first that first line of defense, if you will. It's not a defense, but it's our first line of outreach. And then eventually, if the person did show, or the individual did show promise or did show that they were wanting services, then the security patrol service member was intended to patch them into either PD or into community services so that person can get on the path, of seeking services, getting evaluated, getting triaged, and getting into the system. We didn't see a lot of that follow-up from our security patrol vendor. And we also didn't see the patrol in the entire district, mainly just B Street. So after conducting a survey with local merchants, as well as local property owners about the quality and the efficacy of this service, we had a lot of mixed results. Definitely didn't have the stellar reviews that we were hoping for that would justify the high cost of what we were spending to the tune of around $16,000 to $17,000 a month for this security patrol. So that was really the impetus behind us ending that patrol at the end of March in 2022. And the idea would be that we end that security patrol service because we wanted to pivot into a more humanitarian approach. And the idea that we had for that humanitarian approach was a model that we have out of San Diego, where a district down there that New City America also manages and has been managing for the last 26 years. We have partnered in that district with a local nonprofit called the San Diego Rescue Mission. And that nonprofit provides homeless outreach services. And we contract with that nonprofit, the Rescue Mission, to provide 5-day-a-week coverage, homeless outreach coverage within our district area in San Diego. And so the idea for the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association in canceling the security guard patrol back in March was to pivot into a more humanitarian approach, much like modeled after the San Diego agreement, where we partner with a local nonprofit that has the pedigree, that understands the system, that understands how to speak with the homeless community, the homeless individual. And the idea would be to dedicate that vendor services in downtown so that we get more of an enhanced outreach services in downtown versus push a security solution, which would just push the individual to the other corner or across the street. What we wanted to develop is more holistic approach like we have in San Diego, like I've been able to develop in San Leandro previously, and plug that system into downtown Hayward so that we can get some long-term resolution for some of these unhoused individuals in our downtown. So that's where that's why we ended that downtown security patrol program, because we didn't want a security solution for what we knew was a humanitarian approach. And then also earlier this year, when I mentioned earlier that our maintenance crew in Q2 of this year was starting to dwindle down as people were being enticed back to the traditional job market. At that time, our board expressed interest in going back out and seeing what was out there for providing maintenance services to the district. Originally, when the district was set up in 2018, 2019, New City America took on hiring the employees, training the employees, running that operation in-house. But when we had to rebuild the crew earlier this year, in about March 2022, New City America posed a question to the DHI board whether they wanted to continue to keep this maintenance operations in-house or if they wanted to go and see if there was a vendor that would be interested in providing services for us, like many districts in San Francisco do. Downtown Oakland contracts with Block by Block, as well as downtown Berkeley, downtown San Leandro, litany of other districts in San Jose, as well as San Francisco, each district, they can create their own destiny, but the majority of them like to contract with third-party vendors to provide these services. So the staff, myself, we, following the direction of the board, we issued an RFP in April of this year. One vendor responded, Next Street, and Next Street had, after reviewing the application, Next Street has pretty impressive experience managing district operations in San Francisco, as well as downtown Berkeley. And so, looking at their pedigree, knowing that they were interested in the job and that the alternative would be rebuilding the crew, which is the board, not exactly the board's intention or interest, the board decided to contract with Next Street as of May 1st, 2022. And since then, Next Street has been providing all the maintenance services, all the tasks, as well as all the reporting for maintenance services in downtown. And one thing that we didn't have while we were running this operation in-house is very much a lean operation, shoestring budget. Anyone that's been to our office can attest to that. One thing that Next Street did contribute value to our operation was this reporting metric. And you can see these two reports I've included to the right of your screen. These two reports are monthly reports we receive from Next Street that essentially illustrate all the work performed by their employees in the district on a monthly basis. So everything from sweeping sidewalks, that's considered a sweeping task, to removing graffiti, which is graffiti abatement, to removing illegally dumped debris, to watering plants, to doing 311 requests, to giving directions to customers, to checking in with merchants. All that is run through this GIA app that Next Street uses, and then it produces these reports for us that shows us where district services are being expended within the district and where our hotspots are growing, evolving within the district. So this is a very useful tool for us, and also really allows us to work with Next Street to allocate manpower across the entire downtown district. So this is definitely an asset to have going forward, because it definitely helps us our board wrap our head around what the things our maintenance operations seeing out there. Moving on to district identity. Again, this is we call it DISY for short, and this is the committee that handles marketing, promotion, and special events for downtown. Just backing up, doing a little history lesson. In 2021, originally in 2020, I had presented to the city council, I think on March 13th, 2020. It was like days before COVID hit. It was crazy. And at that time, we had literally just contracted with a firm out of Oakland to provide public relation services for our district. And obviously COVID hit, kind of really upended the entire news cycle and the public relations landscape. So we hard pivoted from that PR contract into a social media contract. And we essentially contracted with that Oakland firm for the rest of the year for only social media services, because we figured that it was the midst of COVID. Nobody was really, sending out PR releases that weren't talking about the world being on fire. People are really looking at social media as being that connection to the community. And via having social media on our side during COVID, we were able to get the word out about who was open. We worked with the chamber to produce who's open for business list. We worked with the Castro Valley Chamber, the San Leandro Chamber, then to market all that to all of our respective businesses. So it was very much a locking arms effort to make sure that our businesses, as much as possible, survive this very unknown time. So coming out of that, when the world stopped seizing as much, we decided to pivot away from that Oakland firm and actually work more closely with the chamber. And so in 2021, the DHA contracted with the chamber to provide social media services, and we contracted with them for the entire year, doing monthly posts as well as highlighting local businesses that were opening up in downtown, and then also working with the chamber to do a holiday giveaway program in the fall and winter seasons. One point I did skip over is that the DHI was a happy partner with the city of Hayward in launching the Together for Hayward Street Party, and then also with assisting with the closures on Main Street for the rest of the year. Something that we were happy to do. We want to see energy in downtown, activity in downtown. And the city of Hayward should be commended for really leading that charge, all the members of the city council as well as the mayor, in getting that done. I think back then we were a few days shy of that Alameda County health order, but if you were on the ground, you knew that this had to happen because businesses needed a lifeline. They needed to be able to open back up, and people needed to, kind of gain some sense of normalcy back after, a year of being shut in and a year of really having their lives upended. So going back to the chamber and our partnership with them for social media, we contracted with them through all of 2021 into early 2022. But then, in early 2022, with Kim Huggett's, eventual transition out to retirement, we understood that the district was working with the chamber as things were very kind of unstable in the greater world. So we were working with the chamber because we saw a mutually beneficial relationship where they could provide a local beat to our downtown and we would get social media services as well. And eventually we understood that we had to grow beyond this relationship. So again, in April 2022 this year, the same month that we put out a RFP for maintenance services for the SOBO committee, we also put out an RFP for PR and social media services to see what was out there. And New City America, I mentioned, we manage districts all over California. We manage and create districts in the Bay Area. A couple of years back, I was also helping manage and create the Downtown Redwood City Improvement Association District. I worked with a firm over there, Olive Creative Strategies. Olive eventually came over to provide social media and PR services for our San Leandro district. So they understand this world, they understand this industry. So when we put out the RFP, they naturally responded because they do this type of work. So they were actually the only PR firm that responded to our RFP. We reviewed their application, we interviewed them, our committee and our board liked what they saw, and so they decided to contract with them at the beginning of May. So at May 1st, we transitioned out of in-house from our maintenance operations into Next Street, and we transferred our social media contract from the chamber to Olive. And Olive not only provided social media, but also provided press relations services, because we knew that we wanted to maintain our social media momentum, but we also wanted to begin telling the story of downtown Hayward to the regional media, especially with the opening of phase 1 of Lincoln Landing happening that same summer. So in May 1st, we started with Olive, and unfortunately we got some sour news right off the bat, is that our social media gains, the Facebook following that we had gleaned over the last year with the chamber, unfortunately, it was set up with that previous Oakland firm, and we couldn't figure out who the ultimate owner of the page was, so we had to start from scratch. But because Olive is so adept at doing this, we surpassed and even eclipsed and then more than surpassed our social media followers since May. So I think when we had to end our old page and restart from scratch, we were around, I believe, 1,300 followers, and that was something hard fought over a year. Olive comes along and gets us 3,700 social media followers from scratch since May, because you just understand how to market these things, understand the funding behind posts, understand how to the Facebook algorithms, the Instagram algorithms, and how they're constantly changing. So, the chamber was excellent for the local beat. They were a lifesaver in the resources and the services they provided to us during COVID in 2021. But now that we're working with Olive, it is really nice to be working with a firm that does this as a dedicated industry, a dedicated job. And definitely the work shows. Most recently, we had some great media coverage of our Downtown Street Party, of our May Day Festival, of our Mariachi Festival just recently. And then also we are working on a lineup for the Chronicle, talking about downtown Hayward, the new development, new businesses coming to the area. That's something that I'm going to be flying up to the Bay Area in the next couple of weeks to give an interview personally for, just so we can talk about Hayward in a new light, put it on the map for the Chronicle readers, and maybe even the San Francisco Business Times in a few months. But yeah, we've hit the ground running with Olive since May. They've been excellent partners with us. I mentioned earlier that we supported local events downtown via social media and PR services. We also helped support those events by providing donations as well as being underwriters for those events. So, we're really about bringing activity to downtown, supporting local nonprofits or operators as they bring that activity back to downtown. working with Vic over at the bistro to do his Oktoberfest days or his brew days, just whatever we can do to help bring people downtown. Obviously, we want to work with organized operators. We just don't want somebody to come and make a mess of downtown and throw a big party. But we definitely understand the value of bringing customers and residents back to downtown through these programs and through these events. So in 2023, that's something that we're definitely going to be looking to get be more robust in is downtown activation, activity at Newman Park as well as Heritage Park, and really just trying to find those local activators and operators that will bring that culture and the activity back to downtown. And then finally, as a little cherry on top, we recently, last year, we designed some welcome home banners just to kind of entice people to come back downtown. Even though COVID, somewhat subsided in early 2021, we got hit again with the different variants. And then we had monkeypox, and really just been a climate of anxiety and fear in downtown. Very difficult for us to entice that customer base back to downtown. So we're working on small incremental things, obviously keeping everything as much as possible clean and safe, but the welcome home banners were small incremental improvement that we were hoping to kind of just make a more sense of destination in downtown. And then we're going to be following up with those welcome home banners with some historical banners that we worked with the Historical Society to do scans of. And so we have selected those finalists, and we're going to be going to print in the next couple of weeks for hanging, likely in November. So that's very exciting. I myself am a history buff. I worked during COVID to get all those scans, and so about 3 hours in the Historical Society. But it's all well worth it because some amazing scenes of downtown Hayward through the past, some amazing buildings that are still standing. And it's something that I'm looking forward to telling that history and that culture to a new generation that, maybe walking down B Street, but not know that this destination has existed in the East Bay for over 120, 30 years. So I definitely want to tell that story and do so to a newer generation. And then this is kind of just a recap of some of our PR services. I showed that we were working with the chamber. We switched to Olive. Some of the kind of characteristic differences of switching over to Olive, we've seen much more high-res photos in our downtown, much more focus on downtown operators and new business owners. That was something the chamber definitely did in spades, but something we wanted to make sure that Olive continued on with. And so promoting new businesses opening in downtown, promoting the culture of downtown, promoting the awesome public spaces of downtown, and then, of course, promoting the different events that we have in downtown that are bringing people not only to B Street, but also to Heritage Park. And then you can see our 3,700 fans that we've gleaned over the past few months alone. And then here are some pictures from the downtown events that we've helped support, either logistically or help give donations for. Again, we see this as conducive to downtown's prosperity. We want to see feet on the street. We want to see those residential families coming back to downtown Hayward versus going to Castro Valley, going to San Leandro, going to Alameda. We think that we have everything that those communities have and more here in downtown Hayward. We just have to kind of create that sense of place and that sense of destination. And we have some ideas of how to spur that in the coming months and next year. And then finally, Land Use Committee. This just reviews public improvement projects in downtown as well as development projects. We heard this past year from the Main and Maple folks. We heard about their project, heard about their community outreach efforts, and provided a letter of support, I believe, to the Planning Commission endorsing that project. But we've also more intently been working with Public Works on developing a hybrid plan for the Main Street Complete Street project. And I can proudly say after 2 years, we've definitely developed a strong dialogue with Public Works, with Alex and Mary, and with Alex Tatt, who's been overseeing the Main Street Complete Street project. And due to that community outreach and to the credit to Alex Tatt and Alex and Mary's outreach to the Main Street stakeholders, we've developed a design that I think appeases everybody. Nobody is, abjectly against this plan, and it accommodates the commercial uses as well as the bike uses that we foresee on Main Street as it becomes a complete corridor in the coming future. And then finally, just doing what we do best, working with the city on code enforcement issues. Downtown Hayward Improvement Association is in downtown 7 days a week. So we see things when people overturn trash cans, to when people light trash cans on fire, to when people tear down the string lights that are on B Street, or when there are unfortunately homeless individuals living in some of the vacant parcels of buildings in downtown. We try to work with code enforcement or whatever department in the city to make sure that these things are accounted for in downtown and that they're addressed so that downtown doesn't give an impression of unruliness or just not being taken care of. Finally, some highlights for 2021 and 2022. Lincoln Landing, obviously, and it's really reframing the cityscape in downtown. It's definitely going to be a boon to downtown with all those new residences, hopefully walking to downtown or riding a bike. We definitely see this as kind of a new chapter in downtown. And this is definitely an inflection point we see this new customer base as, hopefully it will inspire some of these disengaged property owners that we have on B Street and C Street to, get in the game and do something with their property, because as some of these pictures have showed that you see on your screen right now, I've shown you, we have really disengaged property owners on some certain key properties in downtown. We have some turnover and some recent wins. So I do want to give a shout out to Sarah, that's on our board, Sarah Bouzier, as well as Paul Nguyen and Catherine Ralston. They were really excellent this last year, getting some changeover uses and changing properties, having these properties change hands in downtown to actually get some use and get some activation on it. We have the 1060 B Street lot that's right next to Bank of the West. I looked at property records of that lot. I can't find a building that's been built on that lot since at least 1996. So the fact that we've had an empty parcel, not just an empty building, an empty parcel on B Street for over 25 years, and finally it's being changed over into a very, very exciting new use, I think is kudos to Paul Nguyen for really pulling that off. And, it couldn't have found a better use for that space, connecting the parking lot to the theater in B Street. So very excited to see Earth and Back moving in there. Unfortunately, obviously, Buffalo Bills did exit out of their building, but hopefully with Earth and Back going in there, it can kind of create a snowball effect in which another beer tenant or another brewery would look into taking the old Buffalo Bills space. That's something I'll be very keen on approaching 21st Amendment or Drake's about, because I have really good contacts with them from my time in San Leandro. On the far right, you see the burnt out building on Main and B. I believe that building has changed hands from the old Zarpadas owners, and now it is zoned TOD, and the new owners are looking at possibly doing something around 5 to 7 stories, which is excellent. Exactly the type of density, mixed-use density we want to see in downtown. We have the 1025A Street, Old Salvation Army. That's just been, anybody that knows downtown knows this has been a black hole for downtown, especially during COVID. The amount of people that we had in camping in the space, the amount of times that I've had to call code enforcement or work with the property owner about getting people out of their building or fencing off their building, I can't even count. But the fact that it's finally being not only secured, but turned into an asset, it's gone from now a liability in our community to an asset in our community. And it's going to be bringing in customers that would then hopefully park in the parking structure and walk throughout downtown. Or, sorry, not in the parking structure, but walk in a park in Unilot 2 and then walk through downtown. That is the idea of creating a self-sufficient economy locally. And we see 1025 A Street as contributing to that self-sustaining economy. And then we have obviously the corner lot at C and Foothill, the old Crab Shack. It's going to be a new dispensary. Cookies has been a great partner in our community thus far. We look forward to having another, I think it's Jive of Life in our community to be another community partner. And that Crab Shack was also a huge eyesore as well as a homeless encampment or just a really source of frustration for our district as we were a lot of times calling in people and breaking in there or starting fires or whatnot. So the fact that that's turned over from a liability now into an eventual asset is also a huge win this past year. We have our senior housing, the bottom left, is being built right across from the Casa Sandoval. It's excellent use. We need more seniors in our community because what seniors do is they slow down traffic. And they also allow our association to go after more AARP grants, something that we haven't been successful thus far in doing, but the fact that we're amplifying the senior residency in our district. I have seniors in my other districts. I like presenting to senior halls or senior congregations because they're intent listeners and they typically keep up with day-to-day stuff happening in the downtown district. So the fact that we're going to have seniors in our district, I think, is a asset to our community. And hopefully, when their family members go visit them, they can go and grab a bite to eat in downtown.
Hey,
and then
Dominic,
I always showed
I'm sorry.
Man and Maple, and then finally
Dominic? If I could,
Yeah.
I just want to maybe just start wrapping up. I think you have one more slide, but I think we've got another agenda item after this. So if you could try to
Not a
just
problem.
wrap up, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. So finally, a potential projects coming in 2023. I've worked with Jeff Crump in Waste Management Services to ideally place 40 new Big Belly trash cans in downtown, replacing a lot of these old Victor Stanley cans that they have. So this will help definitely improve the profile of downtown. I'm looking right now at possibly upgrading the wrapped tree lights on B Street from essentially Watkins all the way to, Montgomery all the way to Foothill. That's something I'm trying to improve the public profile of downtown at night. We want to see more activation in both Newman Park and Heritage Park. So whatever our association can do to help spur activation there through community activities. I had a picture of the dog down there because we want to also see dog-friendly activities in those parks and those spaces because we have more residents in downtown with dogs. We want to create spaces for those residences. We want to see more public art in downtown. I'm working with Alejandro Gamara, the new owner or the owner of the Casa del Toro, and to do a mural possibly on the side of this building as you enter into Muni Lot 2. And then finally, we're working with Cal State East Bay to possibly develop a video series that highlights local operators and businesses in downtown. And then the last slide of the presentation is the end of year transition. So I mentioned we had a board meeting just last week at the October 5th annual meeting, New City America, the company that I work for, we announced our plan to transition out of management of the DHA by the end of this fiscal year, December 31st, 2022. The reason why we decided this is because primarily New City America is a San Diego-based business. When originally we took on the management of downtown Hayward and all aspects of that management, I was living in Alameda, I was managing in San Leandro, so the commute was inconsequential. Now that COVID has happened, I have relocated down to San Diego, and although I have been managing the district from afar the last year and a half and visiting the district twice a month by flying up, New City America feels that DHI would be best served by having a more locally based management option. And so, with that said, we received authorization from the board to issue an RFP at our last meeting just last week, and we anticipate releasing that RFP within the next 2 weeks for district management services. And the idea would be that New City America helps the board select a new candidate and then help train that new candidate, get them up to speed with all the new programs and new operations and the new contacts in downtown, hopefully to pass over the keys by the end of this calendar year. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you for that very comprehensive report and for all the work that your organization has done in our downtown over the last couple of years that, I realize COVID really threw a wrench in a lot of the plans that we had, but thank you anyway. This is a little overdue, and so we're glad to have heard the report finally. So with that, now going to, this is a work session item, so we will open it up for public comment. I would ask if there are any attendees or people in the council chambers who want to speak. I don't see any speakers at the moment. So I'm going to, okay, no speakers on, did we have a speaker on, I'm not seeing anybody.
Yes, Mr. David Watley.
Mr. Watley I don't see his name down. Did you want to speak on this item? Okay, please come forward.
Forgot to mention that I had said that I wanted to give my updated cell phone number for everybody and my email, because I think that the issues that I have raised are of concern, and I've talked to a lot of people.
Mr. Watley, do you have comments on this item that we just heard?
Madam Mayor, I just need to say something. I am an alumnus of Hillview Crest Elementary. Please let me finish. This is my First Amendment right, and you have no right to infringe upon it.
Yes, I do. I am.
No, you do not. I would appreciate it if this council would like to have a discussion about what inappropriate behavior is, I'll tell you, I don't need the mic. I'll tell you what's inappropriate. Inappropriate is interrupting an alumnus of Hillcrest Elementary, Southgate Elementary, Ochoa Middle School, and Mount Eden High, who made it out of the city of Hayward, which is a very difficult city to live in if you're a person of color, if you're a person that comes from other marginalized backgrounds. I'll tell you what's inappropriate and who made it to the #1 public university in the entire country, UCLA, from Mount Eden. How many people from Hayward get to go to UCLA? Not many. I believe we have one person on the council that is also an alumnus of UCLA. So I would ask that you provide me the same respect that you provide the council member that is also an alumnus of the University of California, Los Angeles. If we want to have a discussion, Mark, about what inappropriate behavior is, inappropriate behavior is interrupting.
Mr. Watley, please speak into the mic and please stick to the item that you have asked to speak on.
Inappropriate behavior,
11.
Mr. Lawson, is shooting dead a resident, Augustine Gonzalez, and rather than treat the family with respect and dignity, because I saw on the tapes, we can all review them, how you treated the mother in particular. I was absolutely shocked. Council Member Salinas?
Mr. Watley, what does this
if we
have
want
to
to
do
talk
with
about
item number
inappropriate
11?
behavior. No, you said inappropriate behavior.
Yes.
So you want to talk about inappropriate behavior. What I wish is rather than, if you want to have a discussion, you can go and agendize that under referrals. Councilor Wahab brought that initiative onto the council. So if you want to talk about inappropriate behavior, talk about your lack of following federal, state law. Thank you.
Are there is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment this evening? Or address this item that we are on, item number 11, having to do with the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association? Okay, if not, I'm going to close public comment and go on to our council, who I'm sure have comments. And we'll start with Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Landry, on your presentation, and just want to acknowledge your efforts as well as donating to events like Juneteenth.
Oh,
and
Councilmember Andrews, we just lost your voice.
Did you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Uh-huh. You
Okay,
said
great.
acknowledge and then it went out.
Oh, okay. Acknowledge your efforts as well as donations to Juneteenth and other major events in downtown Hayward. And just wanted to ask, where do we go from here? I know we have an RFP out, and I guess I'm more concerned about what happens with security and the transition, and what are we anticipating with that? What do we do in the meantime for that?
Absolutely. Great question. And I mentioned earlier in my presentation, but I didn't follow up at the conclusion of my presentation. So thank you for bringing that up. But part of the transition away from that private security patrol firm, we've been working with Community Services Department the last 6 months to develop that Bay Area Community Services Agreement, where I mentioned the San Diego Rescue Mission down in San Diego, to develop a similar program where we would partner with the Bay Area Community Services vendor and have them hire personnel that would dedicate those outreach services in downtown Hayward, much similar to what we've done in San Diego with the rescue mission. So that agreement, we've already passed it through BACS, we've already passed it through the city. We are putting in the final tweaks on it right now and plan to bring it to our SOBO committee, which handles the clean and safe operations of our district, bring it to that committee in probably the next week and a half.
Okay. And then you mentioned other cities you worked in. What did we do to get property owners and businesses to, I guess, do some kind of partnership or coordination when it comes to public art and doing something like mobile public art? We have a lot of festivals, and I appreciate the banners that we see, but what can we do to commit to permanent public art like we've seen across our city, but something that's more engaging, that's more interactive, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, the first thing I would preface would say that there's no silver bullet. All cities kind of take very different tacks in trying to stimulate their local economies and also provide funding for the arts. I can mention a city that I work in right now, the city of Chula Vista, just south of San Diego. It's about 7 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. They have a revolving arts grant program called the Create Chula Vista Grant. It offers up $10,000 per artist or per project to do arts in the community. So that can be a mural on the side of a building. That can be an arts program, an event that has musical performances. But essentially, it's this revolving grant fund that both local small businesses as well as nonprofits and artists can apply for. That gives them the funds they need to, follow their passions, to involve the community in those passions, and obviously promote, Chula Vista as being an artistic destination. And that's something that both local businesses can go after as well as local artists. And I've seen that as a great model to try to provide those resources for, a lot of times artists that are struggling to come out of COVID and struggling to replace lost revenue.
Okay. Well, I'm disappointed that we're seeing this transition, and I'm hoping, I do agree, possibly local might be best for this, but I hope we get some good guidance during this transition, and I wish you all the best in Chula Vista.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Salinas.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for the report. And I know, I just, some of the positive things, it's always good to drive downtown, drive through downtown, walk through downtown. And I see your, I think they're dark green trucks or the dark green buggies, going in and out of the streets. And your team is out there certainly picking trash up and, cleaning and steam cleaning and so forth. So I have seen your services, and I've seen, work by your team. So I wanted to thank you for that. And we have a long way to go with our downtown. My comments aren't necessarily geared to Dominic, and similarly to Councilmember Andrews, as to where do we go from here. I guess the first question I have, and I don't know, maybe Ms. Ott, you can answer this, is I saw that they had a $595,000 annual budget. So what happens to the budget once this transition? They have a board. So what's the succession plan? Who's on deck?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and we've had a lot of internal conversations about this as well, but it is a private board. It's part of the Community Benefit District, so the city we have 2 seats on that board. We do contribute to this district, and so we have Sarah Bowser, our Deputy Director of Development Services, and now Jessica Lobadan's going to be joining from our Community Services Department because of all the issues related to the unhoused population in the downtown. And we're talking with Todd Rollman, our Maintenance Services Director, and Chief Matthews. And I think obviously the board decides, but I will say that we would like to get more involved in how we can partner with them, how we can make sure our work is not overlapping, but that they're enhancing things we're already doing. And so I think we are going to all regroup and work with Dominic and the board and really try to make sure we're involved in this transition in maybe a more hands-on way.
So my next question is I did see here that there's a potential opening up another RFP, and they're going to go out and seek another vendor or another firm to do this. Well, actually, before I ask that question, let me ask this other question. All of the equipment and all of the equipment that's been procured over the last few years, what happens to that equipment? Is it owned by the board, and where is it stored?
Yeah, and Dominic can confirm all of this, but
Yeah.
that was purchased by the district, not by New
Yeah.
City America, and so that will stay with
Exactly.
the district. And I believe, if our maintenance services director, I believe we're actually have found a home for that, and we actually coordinate and partner with them to keep that equipment. So we continue to try to support them.
So
Yeah.
my next question is how and and I haven't spoken to the chamber about this, and I don't know if the chamber's even thought about this or if we've reached out to talk to the chamber about this. But what if let's say the chamber had capacity to fulfill the work obligation that's necessary in downtown? Could this possibly be a contract that the chamber takes on?
It's something we can look at. I think
Yeah.
the chamber obviously has a different board.
Of course.
And so, the community benefit district has to have a separate board.
see, yeah.
So we would just need to study that a little further. Like, would there be a conflict? If it's a contract with the chamber, might that work? So I just don't have an answer for you tonight, but it is something that we could certainly explore.
Yeah. Okay. The other, so just a few comments, and I appreciate that. Based on my observations, and in my, when I'm in downtown, and I'm in downtown a lot. I live in downtown, and I go to the restaurants, and I'm a regular in downtown, if you want to put it that way. And my observations have always been that, the issues, the serious issues like, smoking, I'll start with the minor ones, right? Smoking in downtown, not just cigarettes, but now that we have cookies, there's people just openly smoking, cannabis up and down the street. There's, general bad behavior. There's speeding. There's, the bicycles, wheelies, a whole, 40, 50 bicycles coming up B Street against traffic. Just there's behaviors, and there's things going on downtown that what I've seen is that the security, what prohibits the security from enforcing the rules in downtown, or even just basic, ordinances in downtown, is that they can't do it because they are a private security and they're not patrols. So, perhaps we take, whatever we do moving forward, we, instead of getting private security, perhaps we pay, HPD for additional service. Is that an option?
Yeah, we have Chief Matthews on the line, but we have talked about this, and he can talk a little bit about, we actually are paying and open to paying overtime to existing officers to enhance the patrol officers that serve the downtown beat. But what's happening, and so there had typically been some overtime officers providing additional service, but in some cases they're getting pulled off to actually serve patrol, to fill patrol vacancies. So it's made it harder for us to continue that. Chief Matthews is also looking at some other options to ways we might be able to bring some additional personnel on board. So we're talking about those internally. I don't know if Chief Matthews, would you like to add anything?
And before Chief Matthews
But
interjects, what about, is there a security service that, may not have the authority to arrest or anything, but at least have a stronger authority to enforce some of the ordinances in downtown?
And I know other districts, like one in Financial District in San Francisco, I was just at a luncheon where they were presenting, and they do have security ambassadors. They also have additional outreach.
Excuse me, Ms. Ott. Can we have order in the
We
chamber,
are trying, Councilmember Salinas. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I apologize.
Oh, you need not apologize.
So yes, having security with a click or two, heavier-handed enforcement.
Yeah, and I think what you heard from Dominic was that I think some concerns about escalating situations, realizing that a lot, when they actually went back and talked to a lot of businesses, their concerns were really with unhoused individuals. And so thinking, could we start there? Because private security is very expensive. So could we start with some enhanced outreach? And that's where the idea of adding some additional outreach workers that are just concentrated in downtown, and we're exploring that. But I'm happy to see.
And I'm not, and you're, I see what you're saying. And I'm not only, my observations haven't only been with unhoused individuals, but also, and like smoking and just, there's, anyways, I'll ask my. I'll wait for my response.
Would you like the chief to provide a little update, because we have talked about it and we are trying, but there are some constraints. So
Okay.
I'm happy to just to add a little bit. I think that to Assistant City Manager Ott's point, we have 2 staff positions for the downtown area that work out of our district command. One of those is filled by a person who's been off on a long-term injury, and one is vacant. And in response to that, we've been trying to hire overtime, 2 bodies to work the downtown area 7 days a week. It's been a challenge. I think in part because burnout, I think, is a factor, but what happens when patrol goes short, if we get a sick call, somebody gets injured, somebody's off on vacation, those positions are routinely pulled and plugged into patrol to cover our beats and the mandatory staffing we need to have there. So that's been the challenge. We have had internal conversations about, at some point when staffing corrects itself, having a dedicated downtown district unit. But again, that's staff dependent.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add to that, if I may. So a couple things. Originally, when we looked at providing security for the district when we originally launched it, New City America was very keen on adapting a program that we developed with the San Leandro Police Department, where we actually restored the beat patrol, the bike patrol in downtown via a portion of our assessment. So we paid the San Leandro Police Department, I believe it was $88,000 a year to restore the beat patrol downtown. City manager matched us and also provided 2 additional police service technicians in downtown San Leandro. And we were over the moon. The services provided by that bike patrol officer, the beat patrol officer, were all the services that we equate with community policing. They were a presence in the district. They were active deterrents. They were that individual officer was able to provide that outreach services to homeless individuals in downtown San Leandro. And within a year, able to get 13 people triaged and into the course of services and into transitionary housing. Went to Sacramento, got an award for it and everything. So we went into Hayward with that program in mind, but the wall we hit, and this is in no way on Hayward PD, but it's simply Hayward PD didn't have the bodies to staff that position again at that time. And when we, New City Americans have been having successive talks with Chief Chaplain about this same issue, about when he does have the personnel to staff that position, the Downtown Hayward Improvement Association would be interested in supplementing that patrol position to guarantee it in downtown, because the reality is that we can spend, $200,000 in private security and not have the deterrent effects that a uniformed officer would have. And that's something that I can attest to, having seen in San Leandro. And Jennifer mentioned the downtown financial district. New City America created that district. Private security that's written in their management plan was written in there by us, because we have employed private security all throughout the state. We just know that, to Councilmember Salinas, to your point, it doesn't matter how rough or how hardcore this private security is, they still cannot put hands on individuals. And because our commercial
let me stop you there, Dominic. Yeah, and I get what you're saying, and I get that. So let me ask this question, I guess, just for my last question and for clarification. I understand that, staffing, I get it, right? Now, and I look at a budget of, a little over $500,000. Can't we contract with HPD? Can't they contract with HPD or even with that revenue stream?
Yeah. So what I would just, sorry, can I just jump in real quick? Sorry. I think the challenge we're facing is absolutely HPD would be happy to contract it with the DHIA to have those bodies, but we're down 30 to 40 positions right now. So there's just literally physically not the people.
Yeah. Okay.
We're putting people on mandatory overtime just to staff patrol.
Yeah.
So we can't, putting people on mandatory overtime. I mean, we could, but it's just going to create additional challenges for patrolling the rest of the city. So it's not a question of can we contract, it's just physically, we don't have the bodies to do the contract.
Okay, I get it. And I see what you're saying. And, my central concern is, we have good bones down there, right? And we're seeing things pop up. We're seeing things come up. I mean, we have, a new restaurant that is, it's new. People are going to it. But there's a lot of mixed emotions, right? You're down there, and then nobody likes to be sitting at a restaurant and get a mouthful of smoke, And then if they don't see enforcement of, things that, ordinances that we're passing, then we hear them, and then you hear them, And so, I mean, I know we all get it up here, and understand it. It's just, it's a frustrating, situation to be in, and I'm, these are the comments I get, when I'm out there, and people get frustrated. So, anyways, thank you, man.
I just wanted to add, working with Faye Maloney and working with Norm Davis, if I could clone those two individuals and have two sets of them in downtown, this wouldn't even be an issue. Norm is amazing. Faye is amazing. Lieutenant Cantrell, Chief Chaplain, everybody I've worked with in HPD has been stellar. It's just a lack, as City Manager mentioned, it's just really a lack of personnel. And that's across the board. In every department that I work in Chula Vista, where I work in, City of San Diego, where New City America also has contracts, City of Glendale, City of San Francisco.
Okay, Mr. I think we want to move on to some other council members here. Council member Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank Dominic and his team for really improving downtown Hayward. It's unfortunate due to COVID and other reasons we have lost some businesses, but we've also gained new ones. So I think we're all committed to seeing the vibrancy and just we all want what's best for our entire community, but this district is specific. There's money being invested to improve downtown Hayward. And I think what I liked about it initially was the equity component. Prior to this district, there was only one street in downtown Hayward that got attention. Let's be real about that. So now that there's taxpayer money, the fact that City Hall has 2 seats on the board, I think there's been a real concentrated effort to clean up the entire district, not just one particular area. So I hope that we continue on that path. That's what people are paying for. Also just want to see a smooth transition. I trust that our board members will facilitate that. And also once I strongly would encourage the RFP process. I have some concerns about our chamber. I think they're already at capacity with their own commitments. And I think the benefits of having this neutral body, we saw with the bike lanes on Main Street, how contentious that was and how many years it took us to get to resolution. So we really need a neutral third party to help kind of mediate between City Hall and the chamber. So I love the chamber. They're very amazing for our businesses, but there needs to be a broader perspective than just kind of the interest of your members. So I would strongly encourage us to focus on the RFP process. It's going to be really important moving forward that we activate spaces, even seeing what we could do with the vacant lots. Maybe even doing like a dashboard on DHIA website and City of Hayward's, just kind of the pending projects. People feel a little bit disheartened. They're seeing businesses close, but also we need to do a better job promoting that there are a lot of things in the pipeline. So I think just that communication is going to be key. And I also want to echo the comments around public safety. It really does need to be a partnership with security. I know Officer Davis, I watch him interact with, the students from Bret Harte, from Hayward High. He's really, really engaging, and we need that presence. We don't even need it to be heavy-handed, but we need it to be positive. There's no reason why our officers shouldn't know the names of our young adults in Hayward. And I see that being done with some officers. Obviously, everyone has a different approach when it comes to young people, but we need to put officers that have that type of personality in downtown so they could make those relationships, not just with the young people, but with the merchants, and also be knowledgeable about other information and resources to connect the merchants to address their other concerns. I really like the idea of partnering with the nonprofit. So I hope that we could implement some of that to help some of our unsheltered folks get them services. And then I know it's a bit premature, but City Manager, can you speak to the idea or plans of BACS managing St. Regis, how at some point that may help our downtown? I don't know if you can share any of that information just in the context of this conversation.
Sure. St. Regis and BACS are still in the process of transitioning that facility. BACS has purchased it, but there's a state approval process they have to go to. We'll know more later this month, probably just exactly how that is all going to roll out. But hopefully the goal of that facility is really to provide intensive care for individuals who really don't have other places to go, who may have severe mental illness. The folks that you see a lot of times who are on the streets in downtown that are not necessarily candidates for our homeless navigation center, given either alcohol and substance abuse issues or mental health issues. And so the hope is that the St. Regis facility would serve as a mechanism to help support those individuals in downtown, and give our police officers, our community services staff, our downtown businesses more resources to help address some of those concerns from those individuals.
Okay. Thank you for that update. And speaking on just communication, I know there's a lot of activity occurring on the building on H Street, what used to be the Salvation Army. If maybe we could put a board out there, just kind of like we do with huge development projects, just kind of what's coming, what to expect, just so people could get excited that there are projects on its way. And then also with outreach, I think you mentioned you're under contract with Olive out of Oakland. Is that correct?
Well, so Olive is actually based out of San Diego, but they have contracts in the Bay Area as well.
Got it. Okay. Great work. But I also would encourage us to expand not just on the digital, but also doing videos. If there's a way that we can record some of our longstanding businesses in downtown Hayward, maybe interview some customers, like why do you come here? Why do you like it? We have, I would say, a lot of infrastructure challenges, but there are also these amazing contributions that these small businesses provide. So if there's a way that we could highlight that through video testimony, I think that can also draw in other people from out of the area.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. I mentioned on the last slide, but I kind of briefed over it. Cal State East Bay has been working on a local program to highlight businesses all over Hayward. I'm planning to leverage that same program to turn that spotlight then on downtown to produce high quality videos interviewing downtown operators, longtime operators, so we can give that human component to downtown, much like kind of like Humans of New York, but Humans of Hayward.
Yeah, I like the operator, but I think you get a lot of genuine testimony from the customers. So don't forget that component. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good suggestion. Any other comments from Councilmember Zermino? Oh, okay, so just hail me from down there.
Good. All right. Dominic, thank you for the report. Lengthy, but transparent to a degree. Let's see, just one question and a few recommendations and comments. My question, what do you know is happening with the Charlottes, where Charlottes used to be? That place also closed up and it's been a year empty. You know anything about that?
So I've heard gossip on the block last year of who was planning to move in there. It was another operator on B Street that was looking to move in there. I haven't heard anything since last year about that operator moving into it, which typically doesn't bode well. So I don't know of any recent developments, but I'd be happy to follow up with it.
Okay.
It was really a shame to see both High Scores and Charlotte go, but we definitely want to see activity there again.
So there's a recent operator, but
Councilmember Mr. Mano, I'm happy to address that comment if I may.
okay, good.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Good
let's
evening, Mayor
push
and
it.
Council. Paul Nguyen with the Economic Development Team. The question was, do we know the status of Old Charlottetown High Scores?
Okay.
As Dominic was saying, early last year, Economic Development Team engaged the property owner, Nick Stamatakis, who indicated that he was in lease negotiations with the existing Hayward operator to take both spaces. We haven't heard anything yet, and we have not seen any applications from that operator.
Oh, okay. So I guess since we're dealing with Dominic as the presenter, so my recommendation, Dominic, is to please help us get these folks moving. This is too long. We need to do something. Downtown, our downtown is improving. It's becoming a destination place, a great new restaurant, a couple other fantastic places. Something's happening at the Salvation Army, something happening in the empty lot next to where we meet as a Rotary Club, but it's going too slow. So let's do something. And so my recommendations, let's make sure that all the lights are working on B Street. I got a couple of phone calls and emails this last Sunday that there's an overflowing garbage can. So let's make sure that that happens so it's prevented. I like the flower pots being hung. Let's look for carnations. Carnation is a city flower, and certainly would be better to have our carnations out there. Let's see. Yeah, but it is a good job that you're doing all around. That I cannot emphasize enough. Let's help us fill up the empty storefronts. Look for a comic bookseller. I don't want to spend my money in Castro Valley at Crush Comics. I want to spend my Spider-Man, buy my Spider-Man here in Hayward. Let's see. The street parties are excellent. The Mariachi Festival is fine. Next year, get ready for the Cinco de Mayo, and we're going to do it on the 20th of April. So it needs to be done before. And one of my bucket list items is to eventually see a Main and B Street being carless. So start considering thinking about that. B and Main. But again, the security, I think, eventually will, once we get a couple more police officers and you have the security force, Cookies does have security out front, so that's certainly a deterrent against folks who want to do something that's illegal. I'm satisfied with our downtown, but there's still some more things that we can do with it. I eat there often. I'm there quite often. So let's keep up the good work, Dominic. And if you need any help, by all means, and let's get all those places filled. Paul, I guess. All right. And I'm hoping that we can come up with some kind of an ordinance where we can start fining these owners who have empty storefronts. The place next to Cookies, Dominic, has been empty since 1810, I think. So that's not correct. So let's do something. Even before I got here in 1978, and it was empty then, and it's still empty. So let's get after the owner to do something. And Charlotte's, we miss Charlotte's. I think that's wrong. So whoever this person is who is excited about doing something there, let's get on his or her back to do this. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dominic.
Oh, Mr. Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Zermania. Just happy to offer some insights on some of the comments that you just talked about regarding the downtown. So absolutely right. The empty lot at 1060 B Street, this council approved a business attraction package. It will be the next home of Arthur Max Tap and Snack, and that a full-service outdoor restaurant and beer garden using modified containers. A key feature of that project will be the location, the siting of a former decommissioned BART car. So that creates a indoor, outdoor, public kind of art point of interest for the downtown. That's pretty catalytic in our opinion. The project you mentioned at 1025 A Street is a former Salvation Army long-term vacancy that our team has been working on with the mayor's help over the last 5 years, and we effected that transaction. That will be the next home of East Bay Eats, a virtual food hall establishment that will be home to 6 to 8 different food operators. So essentially multiple food stalls within one building. It's a multi-million-dollar project. Construction is underway now. The developers is on schedule, and they seek to be finished by the end of this year and open in the first quarter of next year. The economic development team is working with their brokerage team to shepherd and direct potential local food, small businesses their way as a gateway to their formal brick and mortar spot. So, a food entrepreneur, for example, could lease a small space within that food hall at a much lower price than investing $450,000 to $1 million to create their own restaurant. So we see that as also a major catalytic project. Also, Nami's Cafe is a client of on Main Street, and adjacent to the bistro and between the bistro and Aqua y Farina. That is a BIPOC-owned business, a Hayward resident actually, who lives in the shutter. The economic development team has helped that operator get up and open for business, so we do have a new coffee shop downtown on Main Street. And lastly, I hear you loud and clear, the nostalgia with Charlotte's, and we're happy to report that we will be getting on B Street another desserts and cupcake operator. In the current Bon Mage location on B Street. That operator actually is affiliated with a cupcake shop on Main, who won a Food Network award. So after this meeting, I'll share. It's called Max's Cakes. Max's Cakes is the handle on Instagram, and they're blowing up on social media with a really cool video about how excited this operator is to come and invest in downtown Hayward. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity. Absolutely a long way to go, but in my opinion, we're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you for those updates. I miss the ice cream too, especially after a movie. And I think my husband has been asking about that building on A Street. I mean, a lot of people have been asking about it for a long time, so I'm happy to hear. My husband will be happy to hear about the eating thing, I think, and the food stalls. That sounds very interesting, a cool project. Thank you. Is there any, and I would just echo a lot of the other comments that were made, and thank you, Mr. Mandry. And I'm sorry if I wasn't able to understand you that well, unfortunately, with the medium of Zoom, but it was a very comprehensive report, and we have the slides. And so, but we thank you for all the work you've done, and we'll still be, looking forward to working with you to bring a new firm in. And I think we can't even begin to understand where we might be right now if we hadn't had a pandemic for 3 years. I think we're doing pretty well, all things considered, with how many businesses have lost money during that time. And then the other thing, though, is, and this is something that we should be able to work on with our schools, and we're hearing over and over again the complaint or the concern from our business owners that they can't find employees, especially in these food-related businesses, but I think others. And I know people are struggling. People probably need jobs. Why can't we connect that somehow? I know we're doing job training programs and things, but that is a concern. Did you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, happy to, Mayor Halliday. As you may recall, as part of the city's ARPA allocation, the council allocated $2 million to the Economic Development Division for the purposes of economic recovery post-COVID-19. Among the suite of 9 programs that we've outlined, 2 of those programs address workforce development. One in particular is called the what we're going to call a Hire Hayward program, which will provide direct financial assistance or an incentive to Hayward employers to hire a Hayward resident and offer them basically an employment subsidy to hire a Hayward resident who might not have the job skills to compete in a normal market vis-a-vis someone else who has experience, and it gives them a leg up. And the idea is to subsidize the training, which usually on average for a retail or any establishment is about 6 weeks, And so we will work to formulate a program to subsidize X%. We're still working on that model, and we'll bring that to council or the Council of Economic Development for further information. The second of that program, we are calling the Tuitions Assistance Program, which is designed to provide Hayward residents who may or may not have been displaced because of COVID. Say your job doesn't exist anymore, your company doesn't exist anymore, but you're seeking to upskill yourself to better compete in the modern job economy. The Tuition Assistance Program will be designed to provide a tuition subsidy or a rebate to Hayward residents who seek to upskill themselves at a accredited institution. For example, if you worked in a nail salon and your nail salon no longer exists because of COVID, and the impacts and the disruption therein, you could apply to this program, say to a 10-day machine shop or hospitality program at Cal State East Bay. And the city would offer you a financial subsidy or a rebate if you completed that program with that certificate, giving you those skills to get those kind of jobs that you're talking about.
Well, that sounds good. Thank you. So let's hope for full recovery as quickly as possible. But with that, if there are no other, yes, Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. One, I just want to thank you guys for your presentation. I think that it's incredibly important, some of the things that you guys are trying to do, and obviously acknowledging the fact that we also have a problem with, COVID and making sure we all bounce back. Some of the things I just want to add as, points as you guys move along and try to continue to improve this area is also, just having a coordinated effort when we are trying to expand what the downtown is truly including, right? I think, it was stated that it's historically just viewed as one street, right? But from a city perspective, it's like multiple streets around it, even in areas that are less walkable, right? So for example, parts of Foothill are technically considered downtown, but nobody really, puts it together with the downtown district. So just being able to see if we can, when we do events, if we block out even further areas, if we, I know you guys have had events where you guys have stuff for kids, whether it's jumpy houses or whatever, do we block out certain areas even further? Main Street and even, the part where the Veterans Hall is, I think that, we have Alfredo, who is a business owner in the area in Vintage Alley. I want to say it's Vintage Alley. He wants a lot more attention for the Veterans Hall, right? Which is a beautiful building. Absolutely. And if we can kind of have, whether it's conferences there or more events around that area, the street between, Fire and them it's mostly just really Fire going through that street,
it's
right?
Very quiet. It's very quiet.
One more time?
It's very quiet street, so it's perfect for activation.
Yeah, right. So just being able to highlight that. And then as far as, you guys have a lot of also people, the chamber is really trying to get robust with our new executive director from the chamber, right? Mm-hmm. As Mr. Nguyen said, hiring people, I'm not sure if we just want to even kind of incentivize it in the sense of, let's have an intake form from the city of Hayward, very basic intake form, partner with HUSD for kids, trying to get a job for summer or whatever the case may be, or even part-time job. I know from HLAC, we can do it there, or we can do it through the joint full body school board city council meetings. But just have an intake form and saying these are Hayward residents that are young people looking to get upskilled into these job markets, right? And these are entry-level jobs as much as possible, being able to do that. But so I think there's a lot of opportunity that you guys did discuss, and I'm very happy to see that. And obviously I always say embrace technology, right? Because that's, you can't really fight it. So let's just make it easier and consolidate and touch more stakeholders, right?
Absolutely.
And then as far as, I think that there still are individuals that are seeing, the business owners. The number one complaint I always hear is still about our unhoused populations coming in, possibly blocking the entranceways and things like that. I do think that we need to have a more robust relationship with BACS and their street team, and maybe, and I'm not sure exactly, what is the schedule right now, but maybe having them come in 2 times, 3 times a week in this particular area. And as well as, being partnered with our community command center, right? And just being able to have a little bit more of a presence, Saturdays from, 12 to 2 or, some random, whatever times you guys decide to pick, but being able to kind of schedule that and have some type of, I'm not saying necessarily an MOU, but more of a relationship and understanding that this is what's going to happen, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about right now, I see as capacity building, bringing in the skill sets and expertise to really tackle some of these longstanding issues that we've recognized in downtown. But, you're not going to solve a homeless triage services or outreach with a maintenance employee. You have to bring in somebody with the skill set to be able to get to outreach that person, understand the service landscape, and then eventually hopefully get them into that service order and chronology.
Yes.
And I love what you said about the Veterans Hall. Alfredo's on our board. We're helping sponsor the ball that the chamber is throwing there in the coming weeks. But we want to see more activation in downtown, wherever it may be. So on Main Street, on B Street, definitely at the new park at Heritage Park. Definitely want to see as much as possible activity there because it's a great interplay between downtown proper and the BART station. So we see this as a perfect asset to leverage to increase the scope of what people conventionally think of downtown.
Definitely. And then, one of the things, like, I think Juneteenth was really well done in the Heritage Plaza section, right? And one of the things that I do think that we need to also do is, and I've said this, and I've heard some of the other business owners talk about, their reluctance a little bit, is being able to close down Main Street, B Street, a little bit in that section, right? I know that there's reluctance there, but I just feel like we've done the same thing with downtown for such a long time, year over year, decade over decade, and I'm going to say it, right? Where it hasn't really worked, right? Or it's like incremental changes. The reason why I would like to see if we can play, and I suggested this in the summertime, from June 1st to the end of summer, and we can actually take the actual seasonal start and end dates, have Fridays where it closes down, and every single Friday night there's it's shut down. The reason why I say that is because, I'm really trying to hope that, the downtown area is more of a destination rather than a quick pick up your lunch, dinner, DoorDash, move on, and completely ignore the spot, right?
Yeah.
If they are able to park their car a little bit further and walk and spend 2, 3, 4 hours in that area, it would be beneficial to the businesses, right?
100%. 100%. And public spaces is what really facilitates that. And clean and presentable public spaces is really the crux of that strategy. And that's why we see downtown Hayward having the bulb outs on B Street, having the park space on Newman Park, as well as Heritage Park and in front of City Hall. These are all assets for our downtown to begin leveraging and to begin promoting. We just need to get the bodies in those spaces. The DHA has a healthy carry forward to begin programming those spaces in the coming year, in the coming months. But this is where we see us picking up the pieces from COVID, is in these built out public spaces in downtown. That's where we're going to see the most activity come back.
Okay. And we definitely are not anywhere near Santana Row. We know that. We genuinely understand that. But Santana Row has also changed, and they dealt with a lot of business closures as well. And some of the, spots that I liked, had to move or get downsized or whatever. But they even made, gardens, their hours are a little bit longer as well. You could literally go buy ice cream at 11 o'clock at night, right? And so, like, being able to expand the hours, expand the service, expand, the specific date that we want to target, Fridays, for example, right? It could be family night. I've stated this before. Movies, projected in Heritage Plaza, free for kids, all PG movies, or whatever the case is, but genuinely trying to make it a destination, draws more people weekly. Certain things are free, certain things, obviously food and things like that, at cost. So just some ideas. I know we've talked about it in the Economic Development Committee. I do want to thank the economic team as well, because they've worked so hard to really ramp up some of the things that we're trying to do in the city. So again, thank you for your presentation, and thank you to the team for working with these guys too.
Of course, my pleasure.
All right, and so I think with that, yes. Thank you all. I will say, what Councilmember Wahab, along the lines of Councilmember Wahab, shutting, we do shut the street down for street parties, and it does bring a lot of people. I know it is a controversial subject, but it might be something we might want to look at. I have never seen more people in our downtown ever than there were the night of the Mariachi Festival. That was amazing. And what also was amazing was that entire event went off real thick crowds of people without any incidents, any trouble, I think that spoke a lot to all of these efforts. So again, we've made some progress. We have had some setbacks, as the whole world did recently, and I think we have a lot to build on. And there were a lot of good suggestions made tonight. So with that, we're going to now move on to item number 12, which is a public hearing on a proposed development on Mannon Avenue with 22 rental townhome units and related site improvements. And I think we will be turning this over to Ms. Ott, our Assistant City Manager, to start us off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, Council. I'm going to turn it over quickly to Elizabeth Blanton, who's the Senior Planner in the Development Services Department, who's been managing this project on behalf of the city.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. Elizabeth Blanton, Senior Planner. The item we'll be reviewing tonight is an application for a rezoning, density bonus, and site plan review to allow a new 22-unit rental townhome development on Mannon Avenue. The project site is located just north of Tennyson on Mannon, and as you can see in this map, it's in the heart of South Hayward with many neighborhood amenities close by. Tennyson Park is about a block away, which is also the site of Mia's Dream All Abilities Playground, the Matt Jimenez Community Center, and the future Stack Center, which will offer many community services. In addition, South Hayward BART, Terrell Elementary, Cesar Chavez Middle, Tennyson High, and the Weeks Community Center Park and Library are also relatively close by the project site. Taking a closer look at the site itself, it comprises just under an acre at 27865 Mannon Avenue and is currently vacant with no existing structures on site. It's zoned as single-family residential, which is consistent with the surrounding properties to the north and west, but this application proposes rezoning the site to medium-density residential, which is consistent with the existing housing directly across the street on Mannon, and with the underlying general plan land use designation, which is also currently medium-density residential. I'll also mention here quickly that orange color at the bottom of the map is a neighborhood commercial zoning, which is along Tennyson. So this site abuts that as well. Here is the existing site, which again is flat and vacant, with the longer side of the site facing Mannon. Here we can see some images of the surrounding area. So as we discussed on the zoning slide, there's some single-family homes like we see in that image on the top left. There's some small-scale multifamily development directly across the street like we see in those two images on the bottom. And then there's also some commercial uses closer to Tennyson like we see in the image on the top right. The proposed project is designed to fit in with all of this surrounding development by breaking up the townhomes into 4 different clusters. So as we can see from this elevation, which is what we'd be looking at if we were standing on Mannon Avenue, the short ends of each cluster face Mannon. So that minimizes the appearance of bulk and helps the proposed project visually fit in with that surrounding development that we were looking at the previous slide. Here's the proposed site plan, which I know can be hard to read on small screens. So I've added this light red line indicating where the property line is. Here in yellow, we can see the 4 building clusters I was referencing on the last slide. The 2 end clusters each contain 7 townhome units, while the smaller center buildings each contain 4. The townhomes themselves range in size from 3 to 5 bedrooms and from approximately 1,700 to 2,300 square feet. Each townhome has its own one-car enclosed garage, and there's an additional 19 uncovered parking spaces located to the rear of the development. Each unit also has its own ground floor patio and upper floor balcony to provide private open space. In addition, there is a central common open space area between those two center buildings, which will be available for all residents to enjoy. There's 2 driveways along Manon which will serve the site, allowing for this U-shaped circulation pattern for vehicles. Each of the townhomes' garages face the circulation driveway, while the front entrances of the townhome units either face that center common open space or the pedestrian paths located on either side of the development. The building architecture is generally modern with a series of projections and recesses which add depth and visual interest. And in addition, as this slide shows, there's a number of different materials and colors that are utilized which further add texture and dimension to this project. This project is subject to the city's affordable housing ordinance. For rental projects such as this one, the AHO requires that the applicant provide 6% of the units as affordable to low and very low income households. This applicant has opted to exceed this requirement by providing 2 very low income rental units on site, which is actually about 12% of the base density. So due to the inclusion of these on-site affordable units, the project is also afforded a 30% increase in density under state density bonus law, which in this case means an additional 5 units above the base 17 allowed. In addition, under state density bonus law, the applicant is allowed to request a reduction in parking and waivers from any development standards which would otherwise make the proposed project infeasible at the allowable density. So as such, the applicant requests to provide 1.5 parking spaces per unit for the 3-bedroom units rather than the typically required 2.1 parking spaces. All the 4 and 5 bedroom parking units will provide those 2.1 required spaces. The applicant also requests waivers from the front and rear yard setback standards, again, to be able to fit the allowable density, the allowable number of units on the site. All 3 of these requests are consistent with what is allowed under state density bonus law. On this table, we can see a list of the objective standards that apply to this project based on both its general plan and its proposed zoning designations. And as you can see in this column all the way on the right, with the allowances per state density bonus law, the project meets all of these objective standards, including requirements related to density, lot coverage, building height, parking, setbacks, landscaping, and open space. As this project proposes to upzone the property from single-family residential to medium-density residential, environmental review was required. The proposed project is consistent with the underlying general plan land use designation of medium-density residential, so an infill consistency checklist that tiers off of the general plan's EIR was prepared. The infill checklist found that the project is within the scope of what was previously analyzed in that general plan EIR and will have no new significant impacts. So as a result, no further environmental review is required for this project. Rincon Consultants prepared this infill consistency checklist, and they are on hand this evening virtually if the council has any questions on the environmental analysis. So to summarize, staff has determined that the project complies with all development standards of the proposed new medium-density residential zoning district, given the allowances that are permitted under state density bonus law. Moreover, it provides on-site affordable units and is within walking and or biking distance of a number of amenities, including Tennyson Park, Mia's Dream All Abilities Playground, the Matt Jimenez Community Center, the Future Stack Center, and the South Hayward BART Station. A rezoning of the property from single-family residential to medium-density residential is appropriate in this case, as it will bring the property into conformance with its existing underlying general plan designation. And in addition, it's also consistent with the existing zoning directly across the street on Manon. And then further, the project is attractively designed with buildings situated in such a way so as to minimize the appearance of bulk from the street and to those single-family homes that are abutting the rear of the property. Last month, the Planning Commission reviewed the project at a public hearing and voted 5-0 to recommend that the council approve this project. In their deliberations, the commission expressed appreciation for the addition of the new residential units in South Hayward, the inclusion of on-site affordable units, and just the overall design of the project. While they did express some concern about the amount of parking provided, they acknowledged that the parking does meet all parking requirements due to the parking reductions that are afforded to the applicant through state density bonus law. So with that, staff recommends that the council introduce the attached ordinance to approve the proposed zone change from RS to RM and adopt the companion resolution approving the proposed project. This formally concludes staff's presentation, but if the mayor will allow, the applicant would also like to give a short presentation before council questions.
Certainly. I assume they're on.
They are here
yes.
virtually, as you can tell.
They're here virtually, okay.
Hello, my name is Bob Iverson. I'm with Hunt Hale Jones Architects, and I'm representing the owners Kishore and Ragini Vesham. And if I can share my screen, let's see if I can.
And if that is not possible, I have it pulled up on mine. Bob, I can just go ahead and advance your slides, and you can just tell me when.
Okay, let's see if I have the.
Can the people on Zoom see it? I
Yes,
can see it, and
we
can
can,
see
Mayor.
it in the. No, we don't even see it in the chambers. I know, but it's not up there. So.
Can you see my presentation at this point?
No, I'm not seeing it anywhere.
Okay.
The city clerk's little screen, but what is happening here? Maybe you could just make your presentation without the visual.
And
sure.
Miriam,
Well,
Bob, I have it pulled up on my screen. If it's possible to share the staff presentation
Elizabeth,
screen, I'm
that'd be
happy
great.
to advance the slides for you.
If you have my slideshow there, that'd be great. That's no problem.
Great.
So, Elizabeth, thank you very much. And Elizabeth did a wonderful job of presenting this. And council members, thank you very much for hearing our project. And in our process, we really are hoping to, and I'll hit a little different aspect of social, trying for the neighborhood to do something that's socially, aesthetically, and practically designed and very appropriate for the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Whoops. Shoot, I'm back one. Sorry, I'm actually trying to follow as well. So for our community presence, what we're trying to accomplish is something that would be safe and pedestrian friendly for the neighborhood. And in this case, by keeping the drive aisles significant and separated from each other, we feel that's a safe method for the vehicular entrance. And then several pedestrian access points for the project, as well as 4 direct ones to 4 units. So in essence, there's a feeling of single family housing on the street. And so this is next slide, sorry, Elizabeth. And so these are the 4 units that we'll face, and we have living space, kitchen areas, and the front porches all facing Manon Street. And so it's just a way of keeping eyes on the street. Next slide, please. And in addition to this, the community space is easily visible from the street, and it should provide some openness for the people walking by, as well as showing some activity. Next slide, please. And we hope, as Elizabeth pointed out, that this can be a walkable community as well by providing a little more density, but also to all those amenities that are nearby, and including several schools of all levels, from which we think would make for great family living for this project. Next slide, please. And so that brings us into the family living, these are either 4 or 5 unit or 5 bedroom, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. And we are also trying to provide some generational living as well for this, with some separation for, say, the ground floor potential bedroom with its own bathroom, and maybe a rear bedroom that can allow for families of various sizes to move in, and demographics, as well as providing private, a private garage, storage, and the private outdoor spaces that Elizabeth had talked about previously. Next slide, please. And then in our addressing the street and the rest of the project, through a variety of materials and stepping and pushing and pulling on the facade, we hope this is also kind of eliminates any feeling of mass that some might feel if it was just a block of the entire building. And then colors, we mix them up but stay within a similar palette zone for the entire project. So it will provide a variety, yet a consistency, and tie it together. And then the material variation also should help us out as well and the way we apply the colors, with trying to also enhance the relief of the project. Next slide, please. And then finally, for our density bonus, the highlighted areas are what we are seeking, besides parking, from our variances and on the code. And this is the front setback, and you can see that it's really only a small percentage of the site itself that protrudes across the 20-foot setback, and in the rear even less of that, with 2 ends of those buildings encroaching onto that. So we don't think it's and plus a very large setback to the middle section of the project. So we feel we haven't egregiously worked against the zoning issues and tried to stay our best within without even hurting those issues. So with that, we appreciate you listening to the project, to our presentation, and we hope you actually can appreciate the project and think it's a good addition to the city of Hayward. Thank you.
Thank you, and please hang on in case there are any questions from council on this. So are there any questions? I see Councilmember Marquez's hand raised.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentations. I have a question. It might be for our city attorney. I understand the rules around the density bonus, but let's just say hypothetically, we did not comply with the parking requirements. What happens in that instance, just so the public can be aware of state law?
Well, under the state density bonus law, the density bonus project is entitled to, imposes maximum parking ratios for density bonus projects. So if the city imposed a condition that was in excess of that, it wouldn't be in compliance with state density bonus law, and the decision could be challenged, and a court would likely require the city to comply with the parking ratios that are in the density bonus law.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And then Elizabeth, can you tell us, after publishing the staff report, if we've received any other inquiries from the public, any other email communication or public comment on this item?
We have not.
Okay. And then I'm trying to look at the plans, and I think I'm just obviously getting older and might have to renew my prescription, but from what I can see, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like there are some plans that have the universal design.
I think we got that question. We're having a little technical difficulty.
I'm gonna turn off my camera and see if that's better. Okay. Can you hear me more clearly?
I can hear you clearly. You were, see this, what is that? What is happening there?
Okay, so my question was,
Go ahead,
we do have accessible to a 10% requirement, and we meet, we have a visitability or adaptability of 2 of the units.
Okay, and sorry, but I just want to be clear. That means that there is a bedroom, kitchen, and a bathroom on the ground level?
Not a kitchen.
Okay, so the kitchen is on the 2nd level, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it would just be the bathroom and a bedroom.
Yes, correct.
And how many units have that design?
2.
Okay.
Oh, no, 3. Sorry, 3. Sorry, 3.
Okay. And then this is designed to be solar ready, but no solar panels installed. Can you clarify that?
That is part of the building code. And so what that means is the infrastructure is there and ready to be put on, so that all somebody has to do is come in and place solar panels onto the building. And
Councilmember Marquez, I'll also clarify that this project will be subject to the city's REACH code, which we're in the process of updating. So depending on when this goes to building permit, it'll either be subject to our current REACH code or to our future REACH code as well, which extends beyond the California Building Code.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to follow up on the question about the accessible units. Are there different accommodations in that, or like grab bars and wider doorways and so on? Or is it just that there's a bedroom off of the garage?
No, you're correct. There is an accessible route, which includes larger doorways. Accessible bathroom, which does typically include a larger bathroom, even though typically anymore we're trying to meet universal design standards as well. And so we're trying not to, we're trying to include ease of access throughout any project that we have. But specifically on those 3 units, yes, the accessibility comes with door handles, heights of equipment, grab bar locations, not necessarily installed at that point. They can be installed at a tenant request. And but they have all the infrastructure there for backing, and also I think from a visual and as far as warning systems for fire and such like that, they're both audible and visual. Other things, thresholds for the building, you'll be able to roll in on those levels from the garage and from the front door. And so, and various other aspects of the accessible code that would be employed. We'd have to meet every bit of it.
Understood. Thank you. And then, so kind of a question for that, but also for the solar panels. So I understand holding back on some infrastructure when you're building it, although we always say it's better to put the solar panels on when you're building it. But I understand that some things a new owner might want to deal with, but this is a rental property. Yeah. So I'm not understanding why we're not encouraging the solar panels and the accessible things to go on in the building. So help me with that.
It will be required by the REACH code.
The solar panels would.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
The REACH code has different standards for residential that's considered low rise, which means 3 stories or below, and this falls into that category.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
But
if I
again,
missed that
some of
earlier.
these, the reason some of the plans don't show some of these details is because the construction level drawings will come at the next phase in the building permit. So
Sure.
we don't check for those things in the planning entitlement phase, but the REACH code will require that.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I thought we'd moved beyond solar ready. Anyway, so, okay, thank you. And then 2 last questions are just to confirm, the parking spaces, none of the parking spaces that are part of the resident parking count are on the street. Is that correct?
That's correct. So our code, including for the state density bonus law reductions, only count parking that is on site or on the property itself. So we're not counting any street parking spaces. Each unit has its own 1-car garage, and then there's an additional 19 spaces in the back that are uncovered.
Okay. That's, just wanted to reconfirm that. Thank you. And then lastly, can somebody speak briefly to what's in the open space? Are there any amenities planned for that?
Bob, I can let you take this one. But
Yeah, sure. Well, right now we worked with our landscape architect, and we haven't programmed anything specifically into that. So we think it's something the residents can bring a barbecue out if they wish, those kind of things. But we haven't put anything along those lines in there. So
again, our landscape architect during the building permit process will review that. On the preliminary plans, which were included as part of attachment 4, you'll see some like bioswales and seating and things like that. So those will be the types of things that we'll be looking to hammer out with our landscape architect during the building permit process.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
I just wanted to ask if the developer is able to add more parking.
Well, it seems to me at this point, I'm speaking for the developer at this point, that we're fairly tight adding parking. There's not a whole lot of places for it. And I think we're not that short on the parking as it is. And with all those amenities and schools and so many items fairly close by, we're just kind of hoping that maybe it's a chance for some of the residents to save. I think it's $8,000 a year to operate a car. With BART being a 3-minute bus ride and 5 bus routes within 1 minute walk, that hopefully that at least some of the tenants or a couple of tenants will take advantage of the condition and actually be willing to go to a 1-car family. And
so just real quick, how much are the rents roughly, since these are rental properties?
Ragini, I think you have an idea on that, and the owner did present a business plan or something along those. I think that's what it was called for.
So we are expecting about $4,000 per unit.
Okay, and what about the affordable housing?
Affordable housing, we are expecting anything below 3,000. Technically, even for this 4,000, this is the higher end. But maybe we're to be on the safer side, 3,500 to 4,000 would be for the regular, and for the affordable something
Just
below
to clarify, the
3,500.
rents for the low housing units would be set based on area median income. So it'll depend on what that is when the units are being rented. There is an affordable housing plan that the applicant has worked out with our city attorney's office and our housing division, and that will help govern the very low income units to make sure that they stay affordable at those levels. So those are moving targets depending on what area median income is.
I'm just going to frankly say $4,000 rent is not affordable at all for pretty much any average Hayward resident, number one, regardless of, who we're really talking about. Number two, it's not enough parking, period, right? I understand, everyone wants to move into this carless world. We are not there yet.
Can we stick to questions now before we go to comments?
Okay, so those are my questions for now, but
okay, we can come back to you.
Thank you.
Thing doesn't work.
Thank you for the report. Just two questions. So there's no gas?
Correct. It will be all electric.
Very good. And unless I miscounted, as per the map that is shown here, I only counted 17 trees.
17 trees?
17 trees in the complex.
I'll have to go back. I don't have the plans, unfortunately, in front
All right.
of me. My
Do
screen
they?
is black,
Does the architect have a figure of the trees that?
Well, I can take a quick look here. I do have the plans in front of me, and I have to admit I haven't counted how many we exactly have, but I would imagine if you counted them, you're correct on that.
It's on page LI. Well, if it is only 17 trees, you're not going to get my vote because there are 22 units and only 17 trees. So I want to see at least one tree per unit, unless I miscounted. But if you can correct the amount. But as per the sign here, there are 5 different types of trees, and I only count 17. So I may be wrong because I may not be reading the map right. So that's my question. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the question, and I need to research that myself. The landscape architect is not with us on this call, and so I'll have to speak to them, but I'm sure we can add trees if
I'll add
desired.
also Councilmember Zermania, again, in the finalizing of the landscape plans with that central common open space and some of the parking areas, if we wanted to add a condition or something to the project about the number of trees, that certainly could be something the council considers.
I like you. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have a quick one. It's the EV ready. We've been discussing what types of EV facilities that we will be putting into all types of housing, including multifamily. And so is that also something that when they go to building plans, the REACH code may address by that time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I'm going to open the public comment on this item, and I think we do have a speaker here in the chambers, Mr. Watley.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Holliday and the rest of the City Council members. Good evening, City Manager Abdu, Assistant City Manager Ott, City Attorney Lawson, and City Clerk Lenz. It's certainly an honor and privilege to continue my public comments in this evening's special meeting. So, once again, for those who, for members of the public that might be joining us late or might have sort of missed the beginning of the meeting, my name is David Watley. I have, my family actually originally came to the city of Hayward in the 1960s. My grandfather was a painter, and he was a part of the painters union back then. I guess they had a union for painters. And they settled in Fairway Park, not the Fairway Park kind of like the upscale one that's by the golf course, the original Fairway Park that's sort of off of Mission Boulevard by Lafayette, kind of by that grocery store, Mexico Super. So we've been here for multiple generations in the city. And so we've seen a lot of changes in the city. And so we certainly would love to thank the city for sort of the efforts to improve policies and whatnot in the city. It definitely has been noticed, and we, as we know, that this city and the communities within the city and the inequities that exist within the city within various communities. For example, the Tennyson Corridor, which is this project at hand, versus, let's say, folks that live in the Hayward Hills. There's or by the Chabot College, right? We know that there's inequities that exist within each of those communities. So I certainly want to thank the council for the efforts that have been made to address just not only those issues, but certainly sort of the overall challenges faced by the city of Hayward. With that, and by the way, I'm going to leave my phone number and my email. My email, Zermanio, you have it. It's davidwatley@reagan.com, REAGAN. I just want to advocate that the 2 affordable housing units, city planner Blayton mentioned that the affordable housing plan is yet to be negotiated by the city attorney and developer. I just had a meeting yesterday with the Afghan Coalition, not a meeting, I stopped by and made an inquiry with the Afghan Coalition. They gave me this book, it's in Farsi for Afghan refugees.
Mr. Watley, your time is up.
May I please finish my thought?
A sentence, you can finish the sentence.
Okay, I'll make sure that there's a lot of semicolons. So, what I'd like—
Mr. Watley.
Yes.
Just finish up, please. Your time is up.
Is there anyone on the council that's interested in hearing about a little bit about my meeting my discussion that I had with representatives from the Afghan Coalition yesterday in the city of Fremont?
That is not the subject under discussion at the moment.
I'm talking about the 2 affordable housing, the 2 low
then
income.
You should have started with that, but your time is up now, and I'm sorry.
So may I just please finish my thought with regard to the 2 low income affordable housing units for this project?
Quickly.
I would like to advocate to everyone in the city, to everyone in the county, to everyone in the state, even if I have to write a letter to President Biden or Vice President Harris themselves. I want to advocate that the city attorney and the developer, when they're formulating their affordable housing deal, that we have to make sure that those 2 units go to Afghan refugees.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to close public comment and move on to council comments, hopefully a motion. Councilmember Salinas?
I'd like to move staff's recommendation with the caveat to honor what Councilmember Zermanio had mentioned about the trees. If at any point we can augment the amount of trees past, or I was going to say past what, 20 or that there's more trees, right?
Yeah, I only counted 17, there are 22 units. So there needs to be a good 10% more than the number of units, easily.
So
10% more, that would be 1.7 more trees, but I think you want more than that, don't you?
More, I just need more than 20.
As long as there's an increase in trees based on what we're seeing right now in the plans.
Yep, and we'll make every effort to try to get to the 22.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right, so motion with that request for that the staff look at requiring additional trees when the plans come along was made by Councilmember Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Zermanio. All right.
And I second just with that, if that is a condition of approval, am I right? And I being transparent, I did meet with the owner of the property, but that was about 2 years ago when he was planning first that. And I'm fine with the parking. Let's leave the parking as is. I'd rather have more trees than cars. So thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. So I found this project a little bit challenging. There's some really great work here. That's not the challenging part. It's the, this is, relatively speaking, not, we know that we meet our market rate housing in the city twice as much as we need usually. And so having a project on the table that's primarily market rate was challenging. That said, I'm aware that we had a deficit in having market rate rental, quality new market rate rental. Councilmember Marquez and I have been asking for universal design standards and complexes that build to that since we were on planning commission. So, I can't honestly say no to that. And what I've learned is that we get a lot of what we ask for as in incremental stages. So there's some good stuff in this project. And so even given my hesitancy, I'm inclined to support it. And I have a couple recommendations. One is to work with Krill in terms of marketing for the accessible units, because there are some incentives that help people pay market rates for and help them move into units. And so want to make sure that that's available for folks. I know the city's been working even more closely with AC Transit to see where we can do easy pass kinds of opportunities. While this complex is small, as it was pointed out, it's a high density, medium to high density residential area. And so whether or not between the other complexes, there's the opportunity to maybe do some easy passes. Because absolutely, if you've got a 5-member household or a 10-member household, which is who's going to live in these, you're going to have more than 1.7 cars. It's going to happen. We would love to have everybody out of their cars. And so to make that easier for folks, also in the marketing. We know it didn't quite work for downtown with the green shutter, so hopefully there's some other approaches we can use here to help encourage people to be comfortable and get to where they need to go, et cetera. And then I have been asked by a number of folks in the community about refugee access to housing opportunities in the community. And so I just ask, I know there's been a lot of work, encouraged by Councilmember Wahab about Hayward first priority in the city. And so, these are Hayward residents who happen to be refugees, and whether or not we're working with those agencies in terms of placement, et cetera. I won't ask for a condition of approval about that, just ask that, in our ongoing work with that.
Just say we do,
Yeah, sure.
Our housing division works on the marketing plan as part of the marketing of the units. And so I could pass that along to the housing division and see if they can make sure that gets integrated into the marketing plan.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. And, continuing to work with developers who've had good experiences with our community to bring us affordable ownership, which is the thing we most need. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council members want to weigh in? Councilmember Wahab, I know you had some comments.
I know, I appreciate it. I appreciate the comments made, but I will just say I do not believe that I can support this project, primarily because it does lack affordability, just very frankly, number one. Number two, the parking is going to be a concern. A 3-minute bus ride is basically, 15 minutes of walking for the most part. And we're already facing problems there, even from the pictures of where it's located, the neighboring areas as well. I am 100% sure there's parking issues there as well. And these are rental properties. And if there's even multi-generational households, with 3 bedrooms, that's easily, 3 adults, possibly even up to 6 adults, right? So I don't think that this is necessarily a good fit, and I'd like to see changes before I could support something like this.
Okay, thank you. I am going to support the motion, and I appreciate everybody's comments and the addition of trees. On the parking, I know one of the planning commissioners, I think it was Planning Commissioner Goldstein, mentioned the concept of unbundled parking. We've talked about that before. And that's something that could still happen here, but I just wonder what, it would be an interesting thing to consider as we're getting, further along in working with them. Whether they would be open to that, so that those 19 spaces, if that happens, then obviously there should be some guest parking spaces too. But the other tool that we have to manage the parking situation, first of all, our hands have been tied by the state a little bit on this. We could not require more parking. However, we have the tool of neighborhood parking permit program that can be initiated if parking becomes a problem in that neighborhood. So we probably ought to work with the neighbors as that project is going up or getting out to market to, well, I don't know, maybe we don't want to forestall or, warn them of the problem beforehand, but just let's keep our eyes on that. I think that is something we are going to have to increasingly employ to keep people who have limited parking in the projects that they are living in from taking up, space in the rest of the neighborhood. And it is happening already. So with that, on this motion by Councilmember Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Cermeño, I'll ask for Madam City Clerk to please call the roll.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So it's the motion with an amendment. Councilmember Andrews?
Aye.
Councilmember Lamnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab?
No.
Councilmember Cermeño?
Sí.
Mayor Halliday?
Yes, and the motion carries with 6 aye votes and 1 no vote. Okay. Okay. So that brings us on our agenda to item number 13, which is an informational item. Is there anyone who would like that to be brought back to a time where we can discuss it? I'm not seeing anyone indicating that. It's just an update on our Hayward residential design study, and of course it will be coming back to us at some point. So with that, we will move on to council reports and announcements. Anyone have anything for the good of the, yes, we have. No, sorry. Okay, no, if there are no council comments, that brings us
Councilmember
to
Andrews
our next
and Marquez
meeting is
have
October
a comment.
18th. What?
Hey, Mayor.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do see you. Yeah, I see you now.
Thank you, Councilmember Wahab. Just wanted to remind everyone that Make a Difference Day is coming up on October 22nd, and I believe it's at Weeks. I'm trying to double check right now. And then also there is a trunk or treat drive October 22nd as well from 12 to 4. But the cleanup is going to be at 8:30 to 12. And can someone double check for me if it's just confirm it's Weeks? Is that possible? I thought I posted it.
Where is this happening?
Make a Difference Day. I was trying to confirm the day.
It's at October 22nd, Tennyson Park.
Tennyson Park. Thank you. Sorry. I knew it wasn't Weeks, but in my mind it was Weeks. Tennyson Park. Thank you so much. October 22nd, Make a Difference Day in the morning, and you can go to trunk or treat at Eden Youth and Family Center after 12 to 4. So just wanted to put that on your radar.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Cermeño.
Just wish everybody tomorrow happy Native American Day.
That was yesterday, wasn't it?
No, the 12th of October.
We celebrated it as a
But it
city
was
holiday
celebrated
yesterday.
Yeah. But it's the actual day tomorrow.
12th, yes. Okay. And Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge Councilmember Cermeño. We had our 12th annual Mariachi Festival, and I hadn't realized we've had it that many years. Of course, there was a break because of COVID, but the mayor was absolutely right. It was the largest turnout, the biggest crowd I've ever seen in downtown Hayward. It was an absolutely amazing night just to see people come out in community. So just wanted to thank Councilmember Armenio for leading those efforts. The Hayward Chamber of Commerce been obviously one of the main partners in making that possible. And then all of our city staff for just helping with the decorations, the lighting, and all that good stuff. So it was a fun event, and I think we are going to have to look at expanding it next year. So just put a little plug for next year because it's getting bigger and bigger. Also want to just remind everyone that tomorrow is International Walk and Roll to School Day. So I'm actually going to be joining the students at Tyrell Elementary in the morning, and just want to encourage those that can to not use a car whenever you can avoid it. So I'm going to be walking to Tyrell from my home. So hopefully just a little plug for us to do more walking and bike riding.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that you're going to be at a Hayward school, Tyrell. I will be at an HUSD school, but I will be at Cherryland for the walk and roll tomorrow morning. So, okay.
That's it. Thank you.
And and that event is sponsored by the Alameda County Transportation Commission and their Safe Routes to School program. So, there's no other comments. Then this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everyone.